And welcome everybody to our workshop, our July workshop. On the agenda tonight are 3 items. And the first one, we're going to start with marketing. As you guys know, the last couple of meetings kind of talked about the idea to move us forward with the next step with all of our land development. And so here to talk about that with some ideas is our good friend, Mr. Marlon Penner. I'll let you take it away.
Hello, everybody.
Hello,
Thank
Marlon.
you for the water. It is hot out there.
Oh, it is
Yeah.
hot. It is.
You know, as I was driving up here, I was thinking, we started working together about 4 years ago. And there's just a lot more buildings and a lot less grass than the next 4 years ago. And that is, it's, again, I said this to you before, but that's really credit to all of you. You have done just such a good job of planning. I had a meeting today with a builder in the office, and he was talking about how things ought to be done. And I bragged about you a little bit. I said, you got to do them like Bel Aire does. Because they got the right architects, engineers, land planners, staff, council. They just got everything going. So I was thinking about that as I was driving down. And again, thank you so much for the opportunity to be a part of that. I think about the things that you did. You engaged the right people. But I also say to you that as you did that, and as you've had development, the complexities have gotten greater, the responsibilities have gotten greater, and the need not to make a mistake has gotten greater. And you haven't made any mistakes, so you really haven't. And that's not very many communities can say that. But I have watched as you have, as I said, had a little increasing pressure on your staff, especially Ty, and again, I can't say enough about the relationship I've enjoyed with Ty. But he's having to do things that he wasn't trained to do. And so that's why I wanted to talk to you about something tonight. We have a lot of the right pieces in place. I hope you still think you have the right marketing person in place. I know you got the right staff and council in place. But there's one thing that I see missing. You've done some master planning, all good. But having somebody that is skilled in that area to coordinate and to interpret and to guide that plan, I think is crucial. Now, usually developers do that. But when the developer does that, he's not caring about the city so much. He's caring about his development. It's got to be feasible economically. It's got to sell, obviously. It's got to work, and his focus is all on that. He doesn't really care about how his development might impact the next guy, or the next guy, or the city at large, or even the city's budget. So, if we could find somebody who has the experience and the knowledge of a developer, but make him work for Bel Aire and to be representing Bel Aire, and that would be the perfect win. Well, I couldn't find anybody like that. I mean, I thought about it a lot. Di and I have had conversations. Mayor and I have had conversations. I couldn't find it out until one day my friend here, Jerry Jones, who has been working for the Slauson Company for 17 years, told me quietly, he said, I'm leaving. I'm going on my own, starting my own development company. And I thought, Bel Aire. That would be a golden opportunity to have somebody who is professionally trained. This guy's been with Slauson for 17 years. He was in economic development with City of Wichita before that, which is something that's helpful for us too. He's got a master. He's the only guy I know. He's got a master's degree in real estate development from Harvard. Pretty impressive. He didn't talk about it much, but I like to talk about it. I can see a person doing this as I said earlier, evaluating the proposals, really evaluate. We had a situation, Ty and I had a situation where we had a developer came in here a few weeks ago, and he wanted to build starter houses. Starter houses. Now, we could have sold some land, but you know what? The impact of that on the community, really low-end starter houses, we'd have to evaluate the impact. And somebody that has had experience in doing master developments would be very helpful. I mean, I can take it so far. I mean, I'm a marketing guy, but I depend upon people with that expertise, even if nothing else, as a sounding board of what's the right thing to do. The prudent expansion of infrastructure. Your infrastructure costs you money, and you don't want to be expanding it into areas where you don't need it, or areas where it's not marketable. The land use strategy. We've talked a lot about land use strategy. And then finally, just to determine what's the healthiest thing for the city. The person that will listen, like we all did to the community a few weeks ago when they came out and talked to us about what they wanted. Well, I have known Jerry for a long time, and I have just huge respect for him. And if you and Jerry can work out some kind of a development agreement with his qualifications, with the relationship that I've enjoyed with him, and with his, not only that, but his relationship in the community. He knows a lot of people. I would just throw my hat in by saying I would encourage you to consider this very seriously. Jerry, why don't you tell a bit more? I didn't try to expand on your resume, and you can talk about that if you want to.
Okay.
You forgot that he likes bikes too.
I do. Yeah, I know people on bikes.
You know, he told me, he says, he hadn't paid a lot of attention to Bel Aire. He says, you know what, I've been bicycling through Bel Aire. I like Bel Aire.
Right, I live, call it River North on, back up to the Arkansas River, just south of 21st Street. So first thing I need to do is get out of the city, and then typically we'll get on 53rd Street or I'll go actually across on 45th and jog up to 53rd. And it's been really pretty amazing. In fact, I got to thank the whole city, and I thank Marlon for the industrial park, because getting those roads paved, east-west, between Greenwich Road, Greenwich Road, and it's really opened up a lot of options for us. But so I have seen it change over the last, like you said, 4 years, and it's and people are noticing it. It's not just me. It's I think that I'm sitting here because your marketing person has sold me on Bel Aire, and I'm bullish on it. I think you have a good story to tell, and I'd like to help you tell that story. As Marlon said, I worked in commercial development for the past actually 19 years, and with the Slauson companies, and our big project was New Market Square, but I've done a lot of other things in addition to that, and before that worked for what was back then known as the Wise Partnership for Growth, and that was the public, I think really the first public-private economic development partnership, and I ran the downtown development program for that group in the early 90s, and helped put together the Hyatt deal, and then went to work for Don Slauson, who was the chairman of our board. Before that, I worked in planning and economic development in Scottsdale, Arizona. So I've worked on both sides. I've worked on the public side, I've worked on the private side, and I've worked on quasi-public-private, and I enjoy it. It's something that I enjoy doing. I do like digging into the problem solving that goes along with development. It's not easy, as I always say. If it was easy, everybody would do it, and it is complicated, and it is easy to make mistakes, and you can drive around this metro area and see a lot of successes, but you can see a lot of mistakes too. Maybe some of them aren't that obvious, but those of us in the business know there are landmines out there, and you do want to avoid them. But like I said, I wouldn't be sitting here if I didn't think you have a good story to tell. I think my strength really is on the strategic planning side. I am a landscape architect. I've worked with your master planner, Jeff Best, a lot. Law Kingdon was our architect at Slauson, and I've worked with Jeff ever since he started working there. And he's a very talented young man, and I just think there are things that we've already talked about, just in my learning process about what you're doing here that I think are heading in a great direction. We've talked about open space and recreation and bike paths and those types of things. Those sell. I as a developer, I believe you get a return on your investment and I think you get a lot of bang for your buck. It's a little bit will go a long way. So I don't have any answer. I'm not going to sit here and I don't have any answers for you. I've got a lot of homework to do if I get this assignment and you allow me to join your team. I've got a lot of homework to do. But as I said, I've got to know. I've known Marlon for a long time. I'm really and just so impressed with what he's been able to help you do over these last 4 years, which is, like I said, that's people in the industry in this metro area are paying attention to what you guys are doing up here. And I just love to be part of that team and would certainly be happy to answer any questions you might have or further that discussion, but that's a little bit about me and why I'm here.
I'd like to make a statement. I'm against almost everything on the agenda tonight. I haven't read it. I just don't like anything. And I didn't like Jerry Jones. The best thing you have is that guy sitting right next to you. So when he says that you're a good person, I think that's good. I spoke with Ty Lasher today. I was only going to spend 5 minutes with him, spend an hour with him. And one of the things I suggested was that he needs to have someone, I call personnel manager, my wife calls human resources person, whatever. He needs somebody who can not only hire and fire staff, but also understand the capabilities, the abilities and disabilities that individual staff members have. And we have loaded the staff with all kinds of responsibilities. So, and like the price, what, $12.50 a month, that's ridiculous. That is absolutely absurd in my opinion, because I know what people make. I know what they've done. So I would suggest that you consider working full-time for the city of Bel Aire, working as the personnel person who can take care of things. That's what I would suggest. And I'm the guy that ran on reducing the budget, reduce the budget by 10%, because I understand how much, I say I have an understanding of it. So I would ask you to consider, you're a contractor, you may say, no, I can't do that, I've got other responsibilities, I understand that too. But that's what I'd like to say. And I was against, I thought this is not going to work. But Marlon, when he says that you're a good person and that you know what you're talking about, and you've had, 19 years experience, that means a great deal to me. And so I'm willing, I would vote for increasing, the cost of staff, including a salary for you. But $1,200 a month is not going to work. I know that, and you know that. So that's what I'll suggest, and I'll let the other members of council speak.
Thank you for coming, and I'm sure you have other things you're doing. We'll just be one of many that at 25.
That's true.
Yeah. So on this 4% development fee at closing, so that's if you sell like the land for us, because aren't you mainly going to be bringing in maybe people for, obviously I love a New Market Square, but we're not going to have a New Market Square, but like if you brought in a restaurant chain or a hotel, stuff like that, is that
along those lines?
That's what we're thinking?
I guess the way I would put this is my services are different than what Marlon's doing. Marlon is truly doing marketing.
Right.
I would be working with Marlon and helping trying to put deals together, and some of that would just be in some of the helping with some of the marketing materials and promoting the community. and some of it will be digging into the details of, like what Marlon mentioned with the infrastructure and some of those things that is probably come back on staff a lot.
Right.
And so we would be a team. So really the development fee is different than the commission. But that is the way the $12.50 a month works.
Gotcha.
I you know, sir, I like your city, but I couldn't do it for
Right.
$12.50 a month.
Right.
But that's the incentive. It's basically a performance-based development fee that recognizes that I'd be part of your team, and then when city land is sold and put into development, that there would be that's when the compensation
Gotcha.
comes.
So your hours would really be a lot out there on the streets and calls and work with Marlon, not here, right?
That's correct, but
Yeah.
I'll need
Sure.
to be meeting with Ty, and you will have plan. I'm sure people will go around me, or just people that Ty already knows that he has relationships with, and they're gonna come to him first. Or they may come to you. And I'm guessing you
And we'll
probably
send them to
direct
you.
them to staff. that,
Well, I would love to have your expertise, because I think everyone on this council knows that our manager's wearing way too many hats. And just bringing Marlon on was such a huge blessing. And I just think this another piece of the puzzle, having you, would just be what Bel Aire needs. Because we are right there on the cusp of, there's just people seeing this all the time. So, I appreciate you taking the time to come and consider working with us, and anything that could help reduce the hours that Ty spends on this, which I'm sure is not what he planned to do when he became a city manager. So I just thank you for coming. I would love to work with you.
And I'd love to work myself out of a job, frankly.
Sure.
That would be great.
Man, the day we
I
sell
think-
that all, pay off our
I think
bonds,
that
yes.
you would be happy.
We would all be happy.
And so, yeah.
Thank you.
At some point, you may need to hire an economic development
Yeah.
director.
Well, hopefully within a year or two, we'll be there, yeah.
I think, here, when Mr. Penner said at the beginning, we have the right pieces in place.
Yeah.
We did not have the right pieces in place as recently as just a few months ago. So building up to this point, and the whole part, we spent quite a bit of our last workshop in June talking about this. That's where we came up with the whole retainer idea to really have these contacts that, quite frankly, Ty and I don't have.
Right.
To take that next step. So.
My turn.
Yes.
I've known Marlon quite a while. I have the deepest respect for Marlon. I remember one of the first questions when I saw him as I walked into this room, and I said to Marlon, would you really like for the people of Bel Aire to tell you what they'd like to have out here? And you remember what your answer was?
No, but I imagine what it should have been.
Well, obviously, he's been working with one hand tied behind his back, not knowing that. Now, Jerry, I know you slightly through WEBA, chamber events, those kinds of things. I think when WEBA was looking for office space, we looked at some office space that you had, various things like that. So I have a great deal of respect for you. My only concern is that you've been doing mostly retail for a number of years now. And although I was not overly impressed with the survey that was taken out here, most of the people were definitely against retail. There's a point where some of that will change. We talked about some of it with development of park facilities that might have an event center or at least some kind of event place that could support retail. But I am concerned about how the two of you are going to work, because he's been extremely good at commercial types of things and how that's going to fit with what you will be doing.
Well, I think, as Marlon said, we've worked together off and on, both when I was at the chamber and when I was at Slauson on different types of developments. And certainly, I did work a lot on retail. I worked on over 100 leases with some of the largest retailers in the world, and also with independent retailers and restaurant owners that could barely scrape together the monthly rent. So I've dealt with the full spectrum of business people, and from a real estate development perspective, but working with business people, and that's really what economic development is about. You're working with business people to help them put their plans and ideas and dreams into place, and it's a competitive market out there. You need to be able to tell your story, and whether that's in marketing a shopping center or a hotel or a residential development, it really boils down to understanding basic land economics of real estate and infrastructure and then marketing. And so the new market was a big success in its time, but worked on a lot of other things that just don't get for some reason, Kerry Rangers loves to report on the latest new store, and isn't so excited when we figure out how to run a pipeline, around the perimeter of a property at 6 feet deeper than where it's located. It's all part of development, I guess. What gets reported on, or
Would you share a couple of those things that are outside of the retail?
Right.
Yeah, is there something
Sure.
you can share?
Well, Oak Creek is an example of a residential development. It's a master plan community, 160 acres, and worked with the planners and engineers to lay that out, and worked with the Slausons to figure out what their initial investment would be and how much to put on specials and how much to pay out of pocket, and what their returns would be, and that has been primarily a residential project that we've had sales agents working with custom home builders. So again, I haven't had a lot to do with the back end of that, but was very involved in the planning and infrastructure of that, and like I said, on the downtown development, worked to put the Hyatt Hotel together, worked with the bankers, worked to recruit the actual hotel operator, oversaw it. It was a competitive process. The group that built that actually beat out several other national caliber hotel developers to win that contract. So, and also a project just north of Newmarket Square is a senior living community. It's a miniature private version of your Catholic Care Center out here, and has and we were co-developing that. I helped do the master plan and figure out the infrastructure. We sold a lot to Oxford Development Company that built an assisted living and Alzheimer's care facility, and then they bought the lot next door to do an independent living facility, and we're marketing the front part of that, and got a preschool that is opening up there this summer. And so Cadillac Lake has put that deal together. That required a permit with the U.S. Corps of Engineers, and worked with the city of Wichita to negotiate a three-way deal where we dedicated the land, the Slausons gave the land to the city, and the city agreed to put a park in there, and then the Corps of Engineers agreed to allow the 30 acres of that land to be developed for commercial. And that's a mixed-use plan. There's a Hampton Inn under construction there now, and so going to be a mix of retail, hotel, restaurants, and office. So, again, I've done a lot of different things.
Well, and I knew that, but I didn't know exactly what recently, and I appreciate your sharing that with me. And you're right, Carrie only writes about what she is interested in.
Which a lot of times is the newest store to come to town.
So, yeah.
But I appreciate your question.
Any other questions or comments?
We have two other members of council who haven't spoken. I'd like to hear what they say.
Want to go first, Betty?
Go ahead.
Well, I too, like the others have said and stated here tonight, I have great respect for our good friend and wonderful helper that we've had the last few years here in Bel Aire. Mr. Pinner has just done so much for our city, and I really appreciate his expertise and professionalism, and I think he's really helped Ty out a lot. I will say, like others have said too, Ty has done things that he was never trained to do and really done an amazing job, which I greatly appreciate. I think it's helped our city a lot. And we have been very fortunate to have some good times. You know, I don't think any of us take credit for it because it's been timing on a lot of different things that have gone together. Besides, you know, you have to make decisions and say yay or nay on a lot of things, but we've been very fortunate to be in the time we're in. And I personally have wanted to do some of the things I think you can do here in Bel Aire. We did get that survey that I was disappointed in because it didn't ask some of the questions I would have liked to have seen on it, you know, but people did say that they weren't interested in retail, which really surprised me because I have friends that sell real estate just in our area that say people will ask when they look at houses in Bel Aire, well, where's your restaurant, you know, here in the city? And we've got a couple nice places to eat, but we don't really have a nice sit-down restaurant that you can go out to dinner and things like that. So, and we have all this great land, and we can't just fill this up with houses and not have a mixed use, because that's really how communities are built. You have someplace you can go and gather, you know, like even if it's just a coffee shop you go to. Most small communities have something like that, and I would love to see Bel Aire have something of our own, even though we're close to Wichita. I think it'd be nice if we had our own community spots, you know? And so I would really welcome any help we could get with that. And the only other thing I'd like to say is we have on our next agenda item here to talk about our Community Development Committee. Well, that started out several mayors ago as just the bare bones, no budget brainstorming committee to try and figure out how to market our city, how to do things. We couldn't afford to hire anybody at that time, so we just had some community members get together, brainstorm, try and figure out what we could do. And so that committee has changed quite a bit over the years, and I think we need to look at that again, about the mission, the purpose of that committee, and I would be interested in your input, you know, on how we could use our citizens, get community members involved in really marketing our city, and how we could make that work better. I think that could be valuable advice that perhaps you could share with us, because I'm sure you've worked with a lot of communities.
Right.
And
well, that's something I did talk to the mayor about, and he has interest in marketing, just what you're talking about, and told me about that committee, and I think that, as I mentioned earlier, I think Bel Aire has a good story to tell, but I think it needs to be amplified, and you know, a lot of that these days is social media, and I'm guessing you probably have some very talented residents here that could, lend a hand with that and just start creating a buzz. And Marlon and I and his staff have talked about events, and that you've got this great area right around here that you have the infrastructure here already. I mean, you could, if you had some, events take a lot of volunteer effort. And,
That's right, it does. You've
so
got to get people involved.
it's not easy.
Motivated.
It is
You gotta
not
ask
easy.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do. Exactly.
And we have a great Lions Club here that's been really involved in our community. We've been very fortunate about that. We've had a great tree board. We've had several really fantastic groups working in the city, but we need more, we need more involvement. And so I think we'd be getting a bargain for what I've seen written down here, So I would say you've been well recommended, and I would be open to the idea because I think we've needed something like this for a long time and just haven't been able to afford it in the past.
Right
And I think
pieces,
we're
right
ready, probably to take another step. Even if people said they didn't want retail, how you ask a question makes a big difference.
Right.
And that was one of the problems I had with some of the things on that survey. I thought there were some questions that should have been asked that maybe weren't. And so, surveys are great, but there's a reason that people answer things the way they do on a survey, so.
I would like to comment on that just a little bit. There, as I mentioned earlier, there is such an incredible gamut spectrum of retail. And to me, retail isn't just retail, it's restaurants, it's professional services, which is more and more like a retail use. And I think, there aren't going to be many shopping center developers out there going, and the numbers are going to dwindle because really people aren't developing shopping centers. I saw the mayor at ICSC, and it's what you hear people talk about, developers talk about is mixed use development.
Exactly.
And what I'm really interested in is community development. And so the types of uses, you mentioned a coffee shop, a small cafe, some of those, a little bit would go a long way, I think. And that would be something I'd be interested in participating in as a developer even. So, so I think there's, retail doesn't have to be big boxes, and it's going to be less going forward. There are going to be plenty of big boxes available for anybody that wants to come to town. They'll be able to find, I think, a big box somewhere that's empty that they can fill. Unfortunately, but that's just the reality.
And they predict that everybody's going to be buying everything offline eventually. I mean, things are just going to go away. So if you don't have something the community's involved in,
Right.
it's going to go away, or people will just get online, buy it, and you don't have to have a store right there, But if the community's involved, if it's a community gathering place where people get together, that's what's important.
Ty, can we put this on the agenda for Tuesday?
Sure. Yeah.
That'd be great.
Right.
Anybody else have any questions or comments from the council up here for?
I'd like to hear what Betty Martine has to say.
Well, I'm not interested in something like the New Market Square, because I read through every one of those surveys. Nobody wants something like that out here. They don't want a town center. But I would be interested in like a motel, maybe out that way, not in the residential area, with a nice restaurant that people, families could take their wives or husbands or friends for a nice meal. And maybe in the bottom of the hotel have some different type things. But as far as business development, shopping, and professional services, we have a doctor that's over here on the corner. As far as I know, he's doing very good business and that type of thing. but according to the survey answers, everybody says they're too close to Wichita. And some of the survey answers were they wanted like a senior development company or housing so that they could sell their big houses because their kids are gone, there's 2 people living in the house, they don't want basements, they don't want 3 and 4 car garages, and something that's affordable because they don't want to also spend all of their money that they're sold their first home with to buy into another one. But they want it available for where people can, like a homeowners association, that they don't have to do the snow removal, the grass cutting, and the clippings and stuff like that. So that would be my main thing.
If I might add,
Okay.
there's also another market out here. The Catholic Care Center is one of our largest employers, and they're 24/7, and many of their employees are not necessarily highly paid. And one of the problems that they have is for people having transportation out here from wherever they're currently living. So I think we need, and I don't really want to use this term, but I don't have another one coming to the forefront, some lower income type of housing, not necessarily for families, but for, they have nurse aides, they have nurses, those kinds of things, and many of them are single people or a couple, and they want a nice place to live, but it's kind of like I can afford a place to live, but then I can't afford my transportation. So if they had a place to live that was nice, close to their workplace, they could ride their bicycle over there. You're a bicycler.
Sure.
A lot of them do.
And
I see them every morning.
I just
Well,
wanna follow
and,
up. Sorry.
and yes, I know, some of them do, but it would be easier if some of them weren't coming so far away.
Right.
So I think that's a market that we're missing.
Well, and I think, and that's another whole discussion, I think that, because I work with a lot of special needs, I'm the payee for 3, and, the transit system, and that's a whole nother gamut, and it now runs people, mainly where they need, and we just need to probably at some point, when we have more businesses, we can get that to come on up a little bit, but that's a whole nother. But I just wanted to, I feel like we might be like telling you this or that, and I don't want to like skew, but I did want to just throw in after we talked about all these surveys, and I think we've all read all the surveys, but we have to remember that that was only 1/3 of our population. And I just know from talking to a lot of the younger people in the community that live right around me, they actually would love to have something like New Market Square up here at the corners of Greenwich and Webb or something, that they wouldn't have to drive over to K96 in Greenwich or something like that to go eat or go do some fun stuff. And so although I know those surveys were very valuable, I also have to remember half of our population did not fill out the survey and actually would welcome Bel Aire to have a few things we could stay in our community and do. So I just wanted to throw that out, that I don't want you to think, because that's only a little portion of the people that sent in. So I just want you to be able to have a free, as you're thinking of all these things, because there's maybe things we haven't even thought about. Because I'm sure that when you developed New Market Square and everybody wanted malls, that you didn't think we would go back to all wanting to go shop outside again.
Right.
Right?
It's
Because in the
changed.
70s and 80s, 90s, we all thought we wanted to go inside. These huge malls, and you go into Kansas City and they're just empty.
And I think that's all of that.
And the concept, so I think we need to let you be open to.
Well,
Sorry.
and a concern of mine is, our 254 front-facing property. We don't have a lot of it, but if we don't get on it and develop it correctly, if we do, it could be a gold mine.
That's why we need him.
If we don't, we're going to lose out because somebody else is going to come along and do it.
That's right.
And
Right across the road.
It's all,
And that's why I was gonna kind of say, to piggyback on what both of you said, I think all that lends itself to exactly why we need someone
Right.
who has these connections, has these contacts, knows,
knows
yeah.
what's going to happen.
and there is, I'm not afraid to dream big. Think outside the box about exciting, big new things. Nobody ever imagined. We keep referring to Newmarket Square because that's the example we've talked about today, but there's hundreds of examples. Jerry and I spent quite a bit of time at the conference looking at really neat, unique examples from all over the world, actually, in North America. There's just, when you think outside the box. So it's, I think we've all, talked about it here. And this is exciting that we have the time and the ability to think this way now.
Gary had a question.
I disagree strongly with the councilwoman to my right about the survey. We had a fantastic result with that survey. We had more people participate in that survey than you would normally get. If you get a 1% or 2% response from questions, that's great. We got a lot more with this survey. And so when Councilwoman Peggy says that there's lots of younger people that want this I just disagree with that. I just disagree 100%.
That's
because, yeah, so.
It was a great survey. I didn't want you to think I didn't. It was a great survey, but.
So we had a great response, and so I just disagree with your conclusions about it. That's all. So I wanted you to know that.
And I would mention that as I was coming back from the lovely city of Mulvane today, I drove by where the dinosaur park is going to be in Derby, and they are moving earth already, and that's a done deal, and that's been kind of a long time in coming. But we haven't even mentioned anything about a recreation. I mean, Derby also has a water park that is pretty fantastic. And,
We tried to get that.
various things like that. So I'm certainly not, personally, I think the dinosaur park is kind of crazy, but that's me. My great-grandchildren might go, oh my gosh, that would be wonderful. But it was just interesting to me to see Earth moving.
And Marlon and I have talked about what you just said about the recreation. I just think that there's so much potential there, and as I said earlier, I think you get so much bang for your buck with recreational facilities. They don't cost as much, and you draw people from outside your community into your community. So you're providing facilities for your citizens, but you're also inviting people from outside, and all that starts to build up some demand for the type of thing that maybe could happen along 254. And one thing I really feel about economic development is the perception is that it's people going out and they're great salespeople and they're just bringing people in from all over to come develop in your community. And my take on it, having done it, is different than that. And I think it's all about positioning and having the right people in place and having the right property and being in a position to where you can work with the marketplace and get what's right for your community. Because one of you said it, there are opportunities. People are going to be looking at developing in Bel Aire. They already are. And the question is, are we in position to make the right deals, the smart deals, the deals that are right for your community? And to me, it's a lot of hard work and just kind of rolling your sleeves up and being in position to make the right deals, and not so much You know, my mentor, Don Slauson, said, I don't want to hit home runs. I want to hit a lot of singles and doubles, and we'll score a lot of runs that way. And it worked. You know, it works. I just think that works.
I will appreciate you being here.
I think you already have a question.
If I may, from the
Okay.
audience, I'll put on my former mayor's hat, and Mr. Slauson's reputation precedes him. It's excellent, it's outstanding. I've been involved with the Wichita Chamber before I retired for a number of years. I was president of Wichita Manufacturers Association in '94. I was on the Economic Development Committee for for the chamber and some others, and I just have a couple of questions. I think absolutely this is the correct man to work with you this time with what we have available, and the time is now before 254 gets sucked up on the north side over there to make development done. In the past, you know, Wichita's been controlled by a handful of developers because it's not a Kansas City. It's not so large that there are so many developers that they all cut the piece of pie up. There's usually been a handful of developers kind of control what goes on in this area. And I understand also that you mentioned, Marlon, about he knows a lot of people in the community. Well, you must know also people outside the community, because a lot of people outside of Wichita have a lot of money that would like to develop here. So in other states, I assume you have ties with them through when you did New Market and some other things. So I think it's very critical that we not just look at local developers, we look elsewhere. And then I understand the star bonds, the state's starting to dry those up. They put a lot out. And do you know if that's true? It's what I've been told.
They did vote to extend star bonds, so they were set to sunset, and there was a lot of momentum, frankly, to let them sunset. But there was a late push to keep them, and they voted to do that. There's a moratorium right now, and I think that comes off, I don't know if it's in 2018 or 2019.
So there's a couple of year moratorium on star bonds currently?
There is.
Okay. And then we're talking about retail, and when I think of retail, and we're talking about buying online, I see all these tax dollars going to Amazon. And Ty knows more about this than I do, because I'm too far away from it. But when I see retail out here, you're talking about recreation and things, you know, people come in here and they sell hotels, you got a sales tax, and you got a use tax. Well, that's revenue we get from the city. So I think development, we have to look at all kinds of things to get more sales tax revenue for the city.
Right.
But I think the timing is right. I think this is the right person to work with Marlon. Both have expertise, and I'll shut up. On my wife's birthday, I need to go home here pretty soon.
I apologize, I didn't see
And
where I was
watch the
sitting
All-Star
earlier,
game.
so, yeah, the All-Star game
That's
starts
right.
soon, so. But, yeah, excellent questions and comments, thank you for
Thank
being
you
here,
for
Chairman,
coming,
yeah.
Jerry, yeah.
So, yeah, so like I said, you know, we talked quite a bit about this at our June meeting and our June workshop, and here again, just would remind everybody, this is a 12-month contract. So, you know, I like the idea of, we can even call this an experiment at this point to get started. And I think we've heard a lot of good points. So that lets, I'm going to move forward and put it on the agenda for the next meeting. If anybody thinks elsewhere.
May I ask a question, Marlon?
Yeah.
Maybe Jerry knows. At one time, there was an impetus to move 54 off of Kellogg and route it down south and then make 54 out here on 254. And then loop around the northwest loop and then go on over here towards Goddard. Has that died? Do you know if that's died, or is that still down the road? They may do that?
I think that has died, and I think what is, I wouldn't say it's died, but what has been pushed way off into the future is that northwest loop because of the state not having money.
There still are good drawings,
Yeah.
but there's no money.
So I'm not sure.
They bought right away for it.
They had hoped to be able to buy up the right of way before growth had got out there and increased the price of land, and it kind of has fizzled out, but not to say it won't come back at some point.
Well, but 254 is still the alternate route when something happens on 35 or 235.
I'll tell you, for people in northwest Wichita, it's the primary route to
Yes.
get to Turnpike, because I do it
Yes.
about once a week.
Yes.
And that's
My
one
daughter
of the things
knows
that
it
Earl and I have
perfectly.
talked about. Yeah.
No, it's
Thank
major.
you.
It is major, and it's becoming more major all the time. It's, at some point in time, the discussion with KDOT is probably going to need to be about some off-ramps and on-ramps. I think.
The sooner the
You
better.
have residents who probably
The
feel
sooner
that
the
way.
better.
Yes,
Yeah, too many people are killed,
yeah.
too many die.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
We're
you.
gonna let
Really
you,
appreciate your time.
You guys enjoy the All-Star Game. We're gonna bring in our next guest. Our next agenda item is residential
Thank you.
marketing.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Take, and they saw them out there
Yes.
a while ago. You guys all have seen, we've had, Jeff here, what, 2 years now? So,
Well, on this thing of the landing lots, they were asking 12,600.
with what, I'm sorry?
On the landing lots, said he's only sold one house, but it was reduced to 8,000. Did we do that, or did he?
I can't recall.
I think we did it.
I think
When
it just
we
to start getting
researched it.
something going. So,
I think we did that, didn't we? Just saying.
yeah. How you doing, sir?
Doing well, you?
Good seeing you.
Andrew Reese, yeah. Saw you around.
Yeah.
Hello, I'm Andrew.
Nice to meet
Okay,
you.
Andrew.
Hello.
And Andrew lives here in the Landing, right?
Yep, so we're the last house in the landing.
And beautiful house, and
It's awesome.
ran into him a few months ago. He had a house out there, a couple open houses.
Yep.
It's always good to have a local, someone here who is invested in Bel Aire.
Well, and that's a little bit what we're going to talk about
Yeah,
here.
so,
Trent hasn't grown any hair yet.
How
are you?
I'm
Good.
doing well. It's good to see you.
yeah. So I just want to come let everybody know, obviously, we have a contract right now with Crown 3 Realty to list Central Park. We just heard a great presentation talking about taking the next step with some retail, recreation, entertainment. And we want to make sure we're keeping up, moving
No, that's
things
good.
forward with residential as well.
Yep.
So certainly would love to hear some ideas, and
Yes. Yeah.
might be something we could certainly possibly consider.
Sure.
Maybe making a change if council were to agree and
Absolutely.
warranted. So with that, I'll let you guys introduce yourselves.
Sure,
and,
absolutely, yeah.
talk a bit.
So my name's Trent Bannister, and I have been in real estate now for 18 years. I was on the front end of the Central Park development on the residential side. I think I was out here maybe 2003 to 2006, and I left 2006 actually to join Slosson's team. So I'm familiar with Jerry. I did strictly residential while he did commercial, but was around him and very qualified guy. So I think you met with the right guy there. And so kind of my evolution through real estate was always with an emphasis on new homes, and went on to do building and developing and marketing and designing and other things. So that's why we're here, to maybe share some ideas with you guys about some of the things that we've got in store for Central Park. I too was a homeowner out here. I lived on Yorkshire Street in my last 2 years of working here, and really enjoyed it out here. And so we are very bought in. Andrew, then we built his house, what, 3 years ago?
3 years ago.
3 years ago out here. And then just finished up his basement in the last, still kind of in the process, but finishing it up now. So we too, like Jerry had commented, we heard him say that we feel like you guys have great opportunities, great story to tell. We're just hoping that maybe we can tell the right story from a residential perspective.
So my background, I've been in real estate now for 5 years. Been with Trent for 4, but really all 5 of my years have been around him, working next to him and learning from him. As mentioned before, I do live out here in the Landing, so I'm the last house down there on the road.
You must have the best view.
Honestly? Okay.
Really?
So now you're going to take me on this tangent, no, but I was even telling Trent, something that's really exciting is, we're finishing my basement right now. It's a walkout basement with windows all along the back, and I get to look over the pond. And I've got pictures of all the sunsets that have been taken out there, so we can even show people sunsets as we're working on selling them lots. So, yes, the view was immediately what sold me. I'm extremely excited about this area for many of reasons. The view, the setting obviously is one of those main reasons. I have sold a couple of houses out here to where I've run into some of you guys actually. Had a house open that was my neighbor's house. We sold that one. That was a resale house. We've sold one here in the, what was Joey and Amy's house? That was in the...
Oh, yeah. I noticed the bungalows. I don't think it's called that anymore.
The
The
what?
Village, maybe?
The
They used to call them the
Village,
bungalows when they
yes.
first started. Yeah,
It's a
village now.
The Village, okay.
So long and short though, when people come out to the area, I love telling the story about the area. It seems to come very easily and naturally just because it was something that, it sold me on day one. I didn't even want to come out here and look, I'll be totally honest with you. We were renting a house when we first moved to Wichita. We were renting over at 37th and Woodlawn, and my wife gets in my MLS and looks around as we were considering our move. She said, let's go out and look at this lot. And so I kid you not, the day we drove out here, Debbie Rader was the on-site agent at that time. We drove out here, I stood on the lot and I called her immediately and we put down our deposit and I was done. So that was it, hook, line, and sinker. But we're really excited about some of the opportunity out here in the development. We'd love to share maybe some of our thoughts and ideas of what we could maybe bring to the development, bring a little energy back to the development. So without that, or with that said, I'll let Trent kind of jump into some of these bullet points of what we want to talk about.
That would be great. And we did do just a brief presentation. I don't think we're going to do anything earth-shattering today, but we wanted to familiarize you guys with us and kind of some of our thinking. And
That's fine.
yeah, he's got it here. Okay. Yeah, so we kind of want to talk about behind the scenes of new home sales and really the mindset behind it, and then talk about some of the current struggles, because some of the current opportunities that we feel like maybe are being missed or at least not capitalized on, and then talk about kind of some new concepts that I don't, to my knowledge, have ever been done in new home developments that I think would be beneficial. I had some trial runs at Slauson and some other places that I was able to have some success there. So I put this next slide talking about the definition of restoration. Obviously, I think you know what restoration is, but to me, when we started this development, it had a very unified, very just distinct vision for what it was supposed to be. It was called a traditional neighborhood development, is really what it's called. And so we had not only design cues and architectural styling and some covenants that restricted homes to be built differently within the same legal block. And I think just over time, and as things slow down, as the market shifts and things like that, decisions obviously have to be made to keep the land moving forward. So we want to talk about how to maybe blend some of our ideas with architectural and styling and kind of get back to some of that really distinct architectural looks and some of the things that I know for a fact people are attracted to. We even last year met with a customer that we were selling a $150,000 lot in College Hill. And they were looking at building up to about $1 million home on the lot. And so when they sat down with us, didn't know me, didn't know him, but we had the lot listed, I owned the lot. And the first thing out of her mouth is, she said, have you ever been to the subdivision Central Park? And I said, I have. And she said, also, have you seen Front Gate? Well, that was another one I ended up doing with Hutton in 2013. Both, to me, resonated with her because they had such a strong identity and look, and the scale, the proportion, the price point. It was all unified throughout the subdivision, but nothing looked cookie cutter. So, I mean, it was an attraction to her, and I know it to be an attraction to a lot of people. So some of the quick figures that we talk about, we bring up these points. We estimate that between 89% of people looking to purchase a new home in a new home community rely on comprehensive design, on-trend amenities, new living spaces as the primary reasons for choosing a home, new home community over a resale community. The reason why I even bring this up is really, I feel like our competition out here is resale homes even more so than new home subdivisions. With TV being the way that it is, with the love it or list it concept of, what can I get in a new home that makes it worth it to me to leave my current home? There's the pain of moving, the expense of moving. Usually they're downsizing, not upsizing, because the cost of new construction sometimes is more expensive than staying and improving the homes that they have. So, but what I also know is people don't necessarily need bigger and better. They just want smarter, more efficient. They want it to make sense. They want it, we call it right sizing. So we want to right size, no matter if you're a baby boomer or an empty nester, or if you're a millennial or whoever. Everybody wants a home that will accommodate their needs, but it doesn't have to be overdone, and it doesn't have to be a big grand home anymore. And then I go on to say, however, only 10 to 15% of people claim they would do it all over again if given the opportunity. I think a big error made by builders, developers, realtors, everybody involved in a new home purchase or new home transaction is the experience to the consumer is not always a pleasant one. It's they're not informed, they don't know what they're getting, they don't know what they're not getting, they don't know where they stand on their money, they don't know where they stand on their budgets, and so it makes them unsettled, and then that if they've done it, not only will their next purchase probably be a resale community, they're not probably going to be promoting us in Central Park if that's the taste that we left in their mouth. So I'm not pointing the finger at Central Park, I'm saying this is building new home communities kind of citywide and probably nationwide, that people just don't have the right experience when they walk in the doors and get to the finish line. So the current struggles that Andrew and I have identified, and again, these are not jabs, these are just our perception, but the thing that resonates to me the most is there's a lack of identity now within the community of Central Park. It started out with the two distinct areas. I know there was other phases that would be opened, but as like I said, things kind of opened up to other builders, other concepts, other looks, other price points. I'm not saying those are bad things, but I think that it's just caused some confusion and probably questions that I think are overcomable. It's just who's answering those questions and is the right thing being said to these customers as they're coming in. So I think a lack of identity, like a unified identity throughout the development is key. Lack of marketing, from what we can tell, and in my experience, I think that you have to have an on-site presence to be successful in these. I go on to say later, you have to tell the right story and you have to have the right person telling it. And so there's lots of really cool marketing things we can do. I mean, we've got an on-staff drone pilot that's a commercial drone pilot. We've got, I do design myself. We've got other things that we can do that aren't utilized, I think, throughout the city of Wichita. But it's really the face-to-face time with these people, getting to know them, making them feel comfortable that this is where you should plan your roots. This is where you should want to raise your family. And I know that for a fact too, because when I used to work in Slauson, people would come to my subdivision, which was Fontana, and they would say, well, we found this other home in this other neighborhood and it's cheaper and my husband kind of likes it and whatever, but we don't feel as comfortable with the on-site agent, or we really want to buy from you. What can we do to try to make this work? And sometimes I just couldn't. Sometimes I said, that's honestly a better fit, for your family or your price point or, whatever the case may be. But they would still refer us. I would still see people walk in the door saying, oh, the Smiths referred us. And I'm like, well, the Smiths didn't even buy with us, but that to me said that there was real value in that face-to-face time that I was able to have with these people. So that kind of ties to the lack of awareness. I think that when you drive into the subdivision, you can tell that there's activity, but you're still uncertain about, are these spec homes, are these custom homes, who are the builders? There's multiple real estate signs, which I understand that the age of the development now lends itself to some turnover and resale, so you're going to get some of that. But even for me being in real estate, looking for these cues, I can't tell who's on point, who, and I don't mean that as a jab, I apologize, but I can't tell who's on point, and I don't even know who to call.
Well, and to the same open house I met you at, the one I did 2 doors down, I actually had a girl run in really quick and ask me about my house and what the story was, but she asked, I'm interested in building in here, who do I talk to? And it was a Sunday at 3 o'clock, and she's in the middle of the neighborhood, extremely excited about where she was, but had nowhere to even go to talk to somebody. I mean,
when Andrew brought up this kind of opportunity for us to come visit with you, he shared with me all the times he's out walking his dog, playing with his daughter, washing his car, doing whatever, and sees the traffic coming through. So I didn't put on here lack of traffic. I think your traffic, you get people driving through this community. I think it's just, they don't know what they don't know.
I think we had at the open house you came through, which was one of, I think, 4 on that house. Again, we're not saying this as a bragging point. There is traffic coming through this neighborhood that's interested. I think we had 45 people come through that open house on Sunday from 2 to 4 in a 2-hour window. So that to me says there's more than enough people looking in this area. It's just a matter of capturing them once they come through the area, having something to show them, tangible, and then being able to, further elaborate on some of these points we're talking about.
Sure. The next thing that is near and dear to me, kind of the birthplace of me being able to design homes, started in Central Park. I was faced with the same thing. We were at the very beginning. Builders weren't quite bought in. No one really knew what this was. And so the builders that we did have, I think they still probably hadn't been coached enough to know what to build. And so then I was expected to just sell what they were building. And then they didn't like my feedback. The builders didn't when I would tell them. People don't really like what you're building. And I didn't say it just like that, but so I started just, as I'm sitting on site, with at that time, not very many customers coming through, teaching myself how to draw. And there was a builder in particular that I would just hang out with him all day, and I would quiz him on what's this, why are you doing this, what's next? So for me, being a young guy, I was in my early 20s, I needed to delineate myself too by having a skill set that no one else had. And so it became design, and then it also became understanding the construction process. So more than just selling, more than just marketing, more than just understanding lending or a transaction, I needed to understand construction. And so then that lack of design, kind of prompted, there was a lack of builders, and I still think that you guys maybe are in that boat, or at least lack of builders that are able to produce maybe the numbers that you're after. We feel like there's probably builders out there that have to be eyeballing this subdivision and have to be looking at it as a viable option. But I think because of items 1, 2, 3, and 4, they're not sure that this is where they want to be, or they're not sure who they'd even talk to, or what's been the evolution, and why is the evolution, why was it what it is. And so I think there's a lack of builders, and then a lack of inventory. I think recently you've had a burst from what we can tell, and that's great. But I still think that if we can up the design, up the awareness, up the marketing, and up the identity, I think those numbers will multiply. But I also think the overall product and the look would be superior to what we can see being built even recently. So this is a statistic from the Wichita State Center for Real Estate Housing. 900 homes anticipated to be constructed in the Wichita area in 2018. I put this number because it's a big number. Last year I was here, we did 7.2 million, and that was 22 homes. I thought that was great. I mean, that was a good year for us, and we kind of had an upward motion going, and we had a pipeline going, and that's kind of when I was being recruited to Slauson. But to me, that's a very attainable number, 20, 30, 40 homes in this neighborhood again, because you have the room to grow. I think is the traffic that if we can just capitalize on it, we're not looking to get half of this, we're just looking to get a small portion of this, and I think everyone would be very much satisfied. So capitalizing on the opportunities. As maybe Jerry touched on, retail, dining, shopping on North Greenwich, I mean, that's a huge commercial development that I think is inching towards you guys, and it's gonna, with the easy access to it, with the highways and whatnot, I think it's a huge draw now to have people continue out this way. So in addition to that, to me, there's less new home competition than there was in the past. When I started my career, I worked at Ritchie, and Ritchie probably had, I don't know, 10 developments at any given time, and I don't think they do those numbers, and I think they've gone on to just do higher end, stuff. So some of this middle of the road, middle price point, I think they're not being serviced. You've got the entry level kind of on lockdown with some certain builders in certain areas, and then you've got some of your higher end. I think the biggest opportunity is in this center, kind of middle sector that's not being capitalized on. Here's where we start to get into a few of the things that I feel like would be interesting concepts for us to consider. You're so close to certain specials being paid off on the lots. to me, if we can build the value in the neighborhood, the identity in the neighborhood, change some of the perception of the neighborhood, your lots are inexpensive compared to the competitors. When we did, granted it was apples and oranges, it was totally different development, but we were selling 55-foot wide by 110-foot deep lots in front gate for, at a minimum of $42,000. I think Andrew's lot, as prime as it is, what did we pay for your lot?
After the incentives or whatever that were going on, I mean, it was somewhere, I think, around 15
And maybe it was 25 to start?
to start, I think.
So I don't think that there's a lake lot out there that's less than 40 probably in any subdivision. So I would encourage you to explore. I guess we don't know the numbers as well as you, but in what little we did research them, I think the specials could be paid off in certain portions of Central Park. We could add that to the lot price. But the perception, I can't tell you the perception to a buyer to sell these with no specials. We hear it all the time. They're like, we're not going to build a new home because of specials. And a lot of it is the customer doesn't understand.
No, you're right, because I'm looking for a new home right
Yeah.
now because my husband, we're gonna do a one level.
Yeah.
And I texted Ty the other day and I said, I can't go to Central Park because we can't afford the
Yeah,
specials.
sure.
And if you took off the specials, it'd be,
It's huge.
well, I'd buy one, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what, Andrew, you and
No,
I had
it's
that
so
very
true.
conversation
It is
at
so
the open
true.
house. I'm like, oh, but plus the specials.
But it's
really-
$150 to $200 a
Yep.
month on
Yeah.
top of your
Yep.
house payment.
And
Yeah.
it goes back
It's
to kind of like
huge.
what we talked about earlier with this big craze with like TV and these
Yeah.
fixer-upper shows. It's also, it intensifies it when people are looking, they love the idea of new construction,
Sure.
but they can't stomach specials. And so they go into these older developments, which the design aspect of our business has been extremely busy because a lot of people are wanting to go into the older homes, no specials, but then they get
They still
new
end up
construction,
spending the
essentially.
same amount overall, but they're using that to improve their home. And so they get all the improvements. So they're milking
You're so
the
right.
value out of
Genius.
what they get. So I do really truly think.
So
that
you're
would be huge.
taking the no specials and adding it to
The lot price.
the lot price?
Yep.
That's ingenious.
So
So that's
let's
really
say-
marketing thing, no specials.
Well, and specials, yeah. So take an $18,000 lot and say you got 12 left and now it's a $30,000 lot. Believe me, you're still less than everyone else.
The average city lot in Wichita, and you're talking about lots that typically are just backing up to other homes.
80 feet wide, 130 feet deep.
Nothing spectacular about them. The average lot cost in Wichita is around 30 grand
Yeah.
as it is. So
For a standard lot.
to bundle the specials on top of the lot cost and just sell somebody an outright lot cost in the cost of the home, no specials. The marketing ploy you could even do off of no specials alone. Again, not that we're hurting for traffic, but I think converting traffic to
Yeah,
sales.
it's just
It'd
a
be
value
huge.
add. Yep, a value add.
I think that's great marketing.
Just as
Me
long
too.
as we're not giving the specials away.
But
Yeah, no, they need to be covered, but they need to be paid for by the customer. Because the thing about, someone that's gonna come in and pay them off, we have a lot of people do that, they'll pay them off. It's of no benefit to them to pay them off, other than when they sell their home, it's more marketable. It's not worth more, but if you just sell it with the lot, now all of a sudden it is. That's built into the price of the house, that can get financed, that can get paid for, whatever it is that they're gonna pay for.
I think
I'm sorry.
for new buyers or people looking, it's a great psychological
Me too.
benefit. But the only thing that bothers me about it, the people next door who had to pay those darn specials
Sure.
are not gonna like it.
Yeah.
No,
you know?
they're not.
Yeah, but
Well,
that
they're-
30,000 lot only costs them 15,000.
Well, I was just gonna
They're
say, like,
still
I could be that
paying
person
them.
next door, and
They're
I
still-
had the opportunity to, at the time of buying my lot, I could have applied money towards the specials or applied money
That's a
towards the
discount.
lot, and I chose to apply it towards the lot, which, long and short, I probably should have applied it towards the specials, but,
If you do that,
Mhm.
you're still going to have a little larger payment than you would have had. There's just the house payment and then there's
Right.
the specials.
Right.
Your house payment will be larger if the
Right.
specials are wrapped
I know.
in.
But in
But
general,
it
if
is
you're.
psychological.
It is, and but where
I
you want,
think
depends on how much
specials
specials
once
are
and I was
left,
like, I'm
because
done.
let's say you do have 10,000 left, and you're paying 120, 100 and whatever, to add $10,000 to the price of your house at today's interest rates, you're only gonna pay like $40 a month.
Right.
So even moving forward, we could look at, what if this concept works, and what if the market will bear a $40,000 lot, $50,000 lot, whatever it is, and maybe you even march forward on new projects with no specials. It's very, well, it's not only uncommon, it's just not done. I get the advantage of specials, allowing developers to put in infrastructure, and not have to front those funds. But I think for a buyer, we get it all the time. And I just have people ask me over my whole career, why do we do this? I go to Nebraska, I go to Oklahoma, I go to wherever. They don't do this. I go to Kansas City.
Say
they don't do
Arizona
this.
doesn't, my cousin's
Yeah, you
older
have
there.
somebody from out of state.
They don't do it.
Right.
They don't
It
do
is.
They don't understand, they don't understand it. We understand it, can walk them through it,
Right.
but still, educated people that maybe have even talked to a real estate agent, I don't even think real estate agents can always articulate what they truly are. Which, it's easy to overcome, but I do think that's a huge piece. I think we should consider that. If we were to, whether we have the opportunity or we don't, I think that's something you guys should probably do.
Well, I know we've heard that question comes up quite a little bit. And years ago, I worked for a developer who did exactly that.
Yeah.
Paid for all that development cost up front, and
Right.
it just went into the lot cost and the cost of the home. And it was a fantastic
Yeah.
selling
Sure.
kind of thing.
And people, they just don't want to be feed to death, no different than a cell phone or they advertise as one price, but then by the time you get hit with all these supplemental fees, it doesn't feel very good. It feels like you're being jabbed at. And so I think whether it is actually less expensive, which I think in this scenario, it could be less expensive monthly for people, but I think, just the perception alone would be of great value. So I think my new home experience, and now Andrew kind of coming up through the ranks with me, would be a huge benefit to this development. I think not only that he lives here, I think that I've lived here. I was here with some of the early discussions. Not that I did everything right back then, but I've learned a lot since I've left. And I understand the mindset of a buyer. I understand what they go through as they even consider a purchase, how long they consider a purchase, how long they shop, where they shop, what they're looking for. That's why this design piece to our business has been, just the best thing that we've done, is because not only do we feel like we have some style that we could incorporate, we understand people, and someone that wants a certain look, I'm not going to influence my style on them, but I'll make sure they're making the right choices for their own style and keeping it current, making it resellable. And we can always even tell them that, just like they do again on the TV shows. If you do this, your house is going to be worth potentially, this other number. Andrew.
You've been watching my show.
Yeah, he's lived here. So we built his house for $250,000 3 years ago. He just finished his basement. Not sure what he's got in that, or if he wants to disclose that. But his appraisal recently was $315,000 in the landing. So I think that's a higher value, at least than what I thought would have been in the landing area. So he feels like this was a great move for him, but I don't think he would have fetched that value if his house wasn't what his house is. We'd be happy to give you a tour of it. I'm offering up your house. Just so you can see this, it's not a big house, 1,574 square feet on the main level. But the details, the scale, the proportion, the amount of windows, the lights, not only what lights they are, how many lights there are, where are his lights, what the design is. Everyone that walks in, there's no one that would say, this feels like a cookie cutter home. Again, it's not a big home, but no one's going to say, oh, I've seen this plan before. They're going to say, and they do say, oh my gosh, I've never seen this before. So again, it's that exclusivity factor. It's that, having something that, again, it was worth it to him. He could have bought a house twice his size for over $300,000 in Rockwood, or somewhere like where I live now. But I don't think he traded it for the world. He loves living here. He loves living in a new home. Everything works. He's got taller ceilings. He's got more windows. He's got things that, there's always a trade-off, when you go into some of these older neighborhoods. So I think our new home experience obviously is key. And then one of probably the biggest things that we are going to, if we have this opportunity, is propose and develop relationships with builders. We're going to charge to them a higher percentage real estate commission, and we're going to do all the designs for them. And so, again, in curing this and being the conduit and the bridge between the developer, the builder, the realtor, the realtor always says, well, the builder doesn't build what I can sell. The builder says the realtor isn't worth anything and can't sell anything. And the developer says, stop fighting, we just want you to move dirt. We get that. So instead of trying to cure that relationship with, not only do we need to have the right people, but what we're proposing is that we would have design influence of every single house that comes in here. So to a buyer, we can say with certainty, your next door neighbor, the guy behind you, the guy across the street from you, it's going to be designed by us as well. It's going to be, you know, same process as you. It's not going to be exactly like yours because we're going to make these more one-off. The builder, we've talked to 5 builders now, and they didn't even blink an eye at paying, because they're already paying some of these fees. They're paying an architect, or they're paying a draftsman, or they're just buying a plan online, or they're doing something like that. To me, if we're the ones that are listening to the people on site with our boots on the ground, I think we have a pretty good grasp of what people want. And so to me, that would be a huge advantage to the builders, that our things should sell. Should be advantage to the buyers, because they're getting a product and ensure that their price point's going to be protected. And then obviously a benefit to you guys, because we should be able to move more product.
And a benefit to the current homeowners, I think, too, to hopefully help increase home values, keep a good, consistent message going.
And like we talked about, the lack of identity and the lack of design, and some of those, just starting to add some influence of the traditional neighborhood styling or Cape Cod styling or something along those lines, that I think is going to restore, you know, what this development should and could be.
Do you have some developments going currently?
So no, my as far as the market, what we market, we don't. I left my most recent company, Hutton Development. We did Frontgate, and then prior to that, it was Slauson. So I worked actually as an employee of Slauson, and so it was a little different scenario. But that's how I know this works: is that people came in, they met with me. We didn't outsource the design. I designed it for them, and then we took it to our builder, and then he priced it, and then I did the real estate piece, and then I helped them make selections and all of those things.
Good concept.
It is. I mean, so my company, although I've been doing real estate for 18 years, Bannister Real Estate's only been around for 5 years. And so this is really probably the first project that we felt like we wanted to explore. This wasn't really in our sights, I guess, as part of our initial marketing plan to go tackle new home developments. Certainly it's our strength, but I think I was kind of burnt out and frustrated with maybe some of the current ways that this is done. So my trial and error has been at Frontgate, at Fontana. We also had Evergreen and Wilshire Place, a couple other developments.
Another, I guess, just a comment. When I was going through some of the homes out here that were in the parade of homes, I have a little background.
Sure.
And I found several code issues.
Okay.
In homes that have been built
Sure.
and evidently passed
without-
inspection,
Okay.
but,
Sure.
you know, not anything that was huge.
Sure.
But if I can bump my head on the shower, it's a code
Right,
violation.
sure.
And some design issues,
Right.
safety issues.
Yeah.
Another one was, you know, it was a tub that was put into a corner, and the faucets and what have you were on the front side.
Yeah.
Way good place to stub
Right.
your toe
Yeah, exactly.
and fall down.
Sure.
So just those kinds of things
Right.
that the average person probably did not notice because they looked great.
Right, yeah.
But those are things that I want to make sure that any designs.
Right, sure. Yeah, there's absolutely a due diligence, not only on my part to do effective designs, and the builders, we're going to have to coach them that they got to do their part to meet you have a great design, but if you don't price it where the market should be, and if you're not coachable, or the quality is not there, I mean, those things will, like I said earlier, quality and design, people will choose over price, but if it's not there, people will run. I mean, they will run, and not have a good experience or not have a good taste in their mouth about the whole development. It's not just that builder. And so, some of these proposals are not for us to have control or dictate to these guys. We want to just coach and be coachable ourselves, as far as just like that's what we do when customers walk in. They're coaching us on what they want. We're trying to give them what they want and give them experience they want, partner them with the right builder or the right scenario. But it takes a lot of effort from all parties, and then you got the inspector and you got everybody else that has to be on board with all that, but I totally agree with you that we need to make sure we haven't hit on 95% of things and then leave the 5% still left to be desired.
And do you have specific builders that you've worked with?
We do. So I think what's going to work out here is there's an opportunity for smaller builders isn't the right word, but probably not your huge builders. Now maybe we would attract them eventually, but what we've been talking to is guys that are doing that 5 to 20 homes a year that can still spend the time with the customer, hold the hand with the customer, just like we will, and not just bulldoze them through the process. As real estate agents, we represent customers in other building scenarios with other builders, and it's just not pleasant. I mean, we just finished one at almost $400,000 house in Auburn Hills, and you would think a builder of that caliber would have explained things better. They were nice to deal with. They weren't, adversarial or anything like that, but they just didn't set the right expectations, and I think that was a huge miss on their part. To me, if he's sitting out here and people know where to find him, and he's making himself available.
Thank you.
And we've got builders that, we're kind of putting our reputations on the line for as well. Again, we all have to hold hands in this and make sure that they're doing their part. But the builders that we've kind of talked to, there's 5 of them, really. I don't know if you want us to disclose those now. None of them have given us commitments, but they've all shown great interest, if we're involved, and I think it would be a great concept. We've really, truly had 0 negative feedback. Really no questions. I mean, there's questions about the development, but there's been no question as to whether or not they think this would work. I think they're as equally willing to try something that's not been done. They just want to grow like the rest of us. You guys want to grow, they want to grow, we want to grow. Thank you so much.
Most of the bigger builder names, thank you. Right now, I don't think will be the fit necessarily for us. A lot of those builders have some of these things that we're proposing already in-house, and you go into some of these builders and they can basically give you a few departments that cover some of these things that we're trying to offer. I think what we're offering is kind of a missing piece to some of these builders that aren't quite to that scale. Essentially what we can do is become their sales force, their design force, and they get to go into the role of simply being general contractor builder, which we've talked to a lot of them. There's several builders, one in particular that we've talked to, he actually prefers to do a spec home over a custom home because he dreads working with a customer that much.
Absolutely.
And the customers dread working with the builders, believe me, they do.
It goes both ways.
So we are throwing ourselves out there to the wolf saying, we are your point person. Not only are we the point person for the builder, we're the point person for this customer. But we speak both languages. They don't always speak the same language. We speak both. It's more work for us. It definitely is. But that's how you build a pipeline. That's how you build a sales that are warranted for a subdivision that has what I think to be the attraction this development should have. It's just when the agents that are on site are either lack knowledge or they just lack effort. Sometimes they are more of a hindrance to the process and to the sales than anything. So we're aware of that. We're not saying putting people on a totem pole saying here's where you rank. We're trying to do this all together, but we're saying we'll be the hub. Like developer can plug into us, builder can plug into us, customer can plug into us, and we'll do the design piece and we'll help you. Some people need more design than others. Some people will want us to go make selections with them, so we'll divide and conquer. He can stay on site. I can arrange meetings to go make selections with them. Help them understand allowances. People don't understand allowances. They don't understand overages. Even if they do understand it, the builder may not always kick out those change orders for signature before the work's done. And there's just so many things that compound so quickly that I think we could cure a lot of them. I'm not saying we've got the end-all be-all cure for everything. There's still going to be, construction is a complicated industry, but
Well, you may have to put some limits on some things too.
we will, absolutely. We don't want to just throw
Of
ourselves
the
out
choices
there to be.
and what have you. Here
Right.
here are the choices.
We usually tell people, we're like, we don't want to rob you of the shopping experience. And so if you are the type that wants to go shopping, you don't have unlimited time with us, but we will go with you. But just know when we go look, we're there to make decisions. And we tell people that all the time. Others say, like when I picked his stuff or helped him pick his stuff, it overwhelms him when he goes into those stores. He actually has great taste and he could do it on his own. but it makes him feel comfortable to have someone there helping him. So I would narrow it down, like, what do you think of these 3? And then he'd maybe go to this choice, and I'd say, I'm kind of thinking this choice. Like, he did black carpet in his basement recently, and that was one of those conversations that he trusted. He went out on a limb, did it, and now it's probably his favorite part of his basement. So,
To just finish on that point though, no builders are going and doing the hand-holding and selections. That's non-existent. Now, some of your big-time builders in town though have design staff on staff that the consumer is going and working directly with. So every other builder in town who does not have design staff on staff has a consumer that is basically just out there
Doing it.
having to make these
My daughter's getting a
selections.
house built in Springfield, and that's what
Yep.
she called me the other day, and she was out looking for the granite color for her. And I'm like, don't they have someone staff to, no?
No.
So you're right. How many do you guys have working with you?
agents-wise, we have 3.
Three.
I'm 4th. I'm like 1 of 4.
Okay.
We will build more as we feel like we
Sure.
need it more, but
Well, no, that's huge if you go take them.
It
That would be
is.
above and beyond for
Right.
you to go.
Well, and that's what he does, right? Like with all of our design
It's awesome.
clients, it's him. The divide and conquer here is I'm more of I'd be the on-site guy. He is daily working with consumers on helping them with their overall vision of design.
Well, yeah, it's
projects.
just overwhelming because you've
Yeah.
got this little window to do this, and this, and
yeah.
Not to mention a budget to stay within.
right.
And then
Like
if you're
today, she had to
blowing-
look at brick, and she was like, "Mom, I'm just overwhelmed."
Well, when you think about the broken kind of model of having 5 builders in one development, let's say one is thriving and has these things that people can
Right.
tap into. Well, he's going to be successful. Well, what happens when these other 4 aren't successful, and then they start to blame the agent, and then there's animosity, then they leave, and then it's like, okay, well, this guy now has the whole piece of the pie, but he can't build as many houses as maybe you guys want, but it's hard to attract customers when this
Sure.
builder's got basically the whole development on lockdown. And so if we're kind of that conduit, and we can say, all right, this builder is full right now, he's
Right.
told us he can't do anymore, we'll tap into this builder, or maybe this builder
awesome.
personality-wise is a better fit. So, again, we're taking a lot of the brunt of that work, but we feel like that cures the argument of realtors are just high-paid people that don't do any work. Like, we get that, but that's not us. I mean, we're here to work, we're here to make sure that we earn the respect of the builders, earn the respect of the customers, and certainly earn your guys' respect, hopefully, as well.
Mr. Mayor, we have 2 excellent salespeople here, excellent, they really are. So I'm in favor of having these people work for us.
Well, thank you.
Exclusively.
Thank you.
I don't know about that one.
I like your enthusiasm, and I like the
I do
fact
too.
that you both have
Appreciate that
history
comment.
here.
Yeah.
And you're like part of the community already.
Right.
You know,
I have to-
I like that.
I have to tell you, when Trent left, he came in and gave me a hug in the glass office, and I cried.
It was a sad day. I mean, I
Yes,
hate to
it
believe
was.
that.
It was very
Well, I'll tell you, I
sad.
appreciate a lot of the original ideas, the fact that you guys have been proactive in pursuing this. Be careful on how I say this, you know, we've heard some people up here just say, well, it's just so hard to sell. It's just so hard to sell Bel Aire. It's tough, it's tough. So to hear fresh enthusiasm and excitement, because we know and we believe, I think exactly, I'm going to echo kind of exactly what Councilman McDonald just said. You know, it's we've kind of done the same old for a couple of years now. So
Well, and the thought, I mean, I'll just be completely honest. My thought behind this, there was an article in the paper that was, this is where our conversations, I guess, kind of started, because I got the Bel Aire Breeze and I opened it, and the headline on it was sales struggling in development, I think, is what like the front page article was. And it was talking about Central Park, which is a neighborhood I was getting ready to sink a lot of money into my own personal home. And it was just a little concerning, you know, and to me also, I guess I talk to my neighbors and I talk to clients, and it blows my mind daily that people don't know about this place.
Right.
It's hard for me because I think that's part of the appeal, but it's also, I think, part of the problem with the lack of sales. But when I saw that article, it was a little cringing to me just because I don't understand it. I don't understand why. I guess I do understand why, I just, to me, the excuses, we could kind of wipe those off. We're not here to say, again, I want to be certainly clear that we're not here to say we're going to fix everything and everything.
But we've had a long run now of trial and error. We feel like, and to your point, sales are hard. I mean, it is hard to sell something, but when you're telling the right story, you believe in the story, and the right person's telling the story, and then you got someone like me that can back it up too, people will buy it. And if you have the product, I mean,
And you're here.
Yeah, and we're here.
You're here to answer those questions,
have to
meet
be.
those, yeah, that's,
I mean, one of our big things would be, we're gonna really hope to, if this thing comes to fruition, would be get inventory in place. To me, I can go to other developments all day long and I get blown away at the inventory, the model structure, if you just go right across the street to Woodlawn, I've got a buyer buying a home over there right now. It's actually the second one that I've sold in there. They've got model home row over there. I mean, and it's set up well. I'm not saying we're going to be able to implement a model home row right off the bat, but inventory it's needed.
You mean Rock Road?
Woodlawn?
Oh, no,
Iron Gate.
yeah.
Iron Gate.
Yeah,
Right.
because, people go in there and they think, oh, I can't pick which one I want. Which
Right,
one?
sure.
They're all good.
Well, and with some of the things that we'll be trying to do from a design angle, which I think is going to be some of the appeal to the neighborhood, we visually have to have that for people. People have to see that to understand what is the difference in some of these design aspects of a home
Yeah.
versus, just telling them. It's kind of hard to, so.
The average person can't visualize that.
Right,
You've got to
correct.
show them.
All of the designs that we used even in this presentation, the backgrounds are all homes that we've done. You're more than welcome to look at our website. We have a bannisterdesign.com, bannisterrealestate.com. Every photo on there is stuff that we've designed and done. It's not, we've never purchased a photo. And so I think that too, when you earn the buy-in of the customer and then you can produce a product that looks like that, and when you got builders that will buy in and build it, and allow us that influence, it's kind of it is an unstoppable. You develop some momentum, and it's.
Here's something I'm excited about. Okay, the developer I worked for normally had 100 houses under construction each and every day
Yeah.
that I worked for them. They had a system, okay. Now, it was a little bit more of the cookie cutter, so I like the design
Yeah.
kind of thing. But for what they were doing, the cookie cutter worked
Sure.
very well, and you could take the designs and flip the elevations back and forth and,
Sure.
that kind of thing. So when you got done, if I don't tell you where it is, you won't know where it is, and most of you drive by it on a daily basis, kind of thing. The colors were picked by a certain time, and there were colors that were limited, so you
Right.
didn't have a bright red house with
Sure.
a blue
Right.
roof,
Sure.
Like the barn?
Yeah.
kind of thing. There were 4 homes at each different phase of that subdivision that would have samples of
Sure.
what you can choose,
Yeah.
flooring, however far you're going to go, brick, those kinds of things. And it saved that, because I know I did this when I did my kitchen. I froze up.
Yeah.
My son thought I'd lost my mind because he was doing the work for me, and he'd never seen his mother that indecisive.
Yeah.
But I couldn't put it together.
Sure. Well, they're big
And-
decisions, and they seem permanent, although they're not technically permanent. At the time, they seem very permanent. And,
Well-
and it's a lot of money to
Because you don't have the
invest.
money right then to redo it.
But, yeah, once you've got it in there, right, and things like that. And, the people who are doing the work. I mean, after I bought the tile for the backsplash and what have you, I see him sorting it on the floor, and I go, what the hell are you doing? And he goes, the ugly ones go behind the refrigerator.
How funny. That's too funny.
I went, oh,
Sure.
never thought of that, kind of thing. But in those boxes of tile, there were some that weren't.
Some that weren't quite, yeah.
Yeah, they weren't
Sure.
real pretty. They didn't have any design in.
Yeah.
So it is exciting to hear this. You're the closest that I have heard talk about anything that's even close
Sure.
to that successful company
Well, we appreciate that, and we, like I said, we've been doing some remodel for people over the last 2 years too. And I can say, as a construction company, we had to decide: are we a construction company? Are we a real estate company? Are we designers? What are we? We shed the construction company piece. That's the piece that I was least good at, in terms of that, because it requires so much hand-holding, not hand-holding, but of the subcontractors and the scheduling and the financing and everything else. So, because all my time was being consumed with customers wanting to spend time with me to go, implement some of their ideas or get things selected. And like you said, you do have to draw the line, with somewhere. You can't be a free-for-all.
That company was very picky about
Yeah.
the subs that they used
Yeah.
and the suppliers,
Right.
and I mean, the
It's also-
system was pretty flawless.
Yes. It's also the beauty of the technology we have now that we didn't have. You want to talk about hard selling, no streets, sitting in a trailer, city is the developer, no one gets it. I mean, those were tough times. I mean, that was kind of brutal, as you remember. I think I was just young and dumb enough that I didn't let it faze me, and I just believed in this place so much that we just kind of pushed through it. And so now to have the repertoire of photos and ideas and background and knowledge of just construction and real estate and development in general, I think it would be a benefit to everyone. Certainly, we're ready to kind of put this out there that we're ready to tackle something like this.
I think we're sold.
Well, good. And we would do it. Please do look at our online stuff though, because we need to develop a Central Park webpage that's more visually, pleasing.
So, I've got it pulled up here. Your colors pop,
Yep.
and
Yeah, and
Like
he
the
designed all of our web presence.
Yeah, so I just do
again,
these
that's
in-house.
all- It's all in-house done, so it's,
this is all can be shown now for comparison's sake.
we both office from home, so
it's a big difference. I mean, it's
house, my house does have an office that, again, it's in the basement. I think going back to like some of your products, we use a lot of the products in my house that we're able to bring consumers in and talk to them about and show them about, not to mention the consumers get to sit in the development with a great view and look out and
Right.
see it while we're talking to them
$1 million
about development.
view.
Yeah, so,
absolutely.
we feel confident.
Yeah, and then to be able to go, some people too, they just get stuck in the process. They want to buy here, they understand they're bought in. How do we sell their house? Well, we do that too. I mean, so again, we're trying to overcome any objection that would cause them not to want to move here or to have to hand them off to another level of service, whether outside our company or whatever. We just want to be able to maintain our relationship with them as the point person that they don't have to go anywhere else to get this done.
Have it off for questions?
Yeah.
Do you have existing contacts with various financial institutions?
Absolutely. Yep, we do. So Home Bank is a big one. We have
First Bank and News, the big one. for
First Bank,
us.
and then who is the guy that's doing
Commerce.
Commerce?
We
We have several, but
And with the builders that we're working with, they are actually going to probably lean on us a little bit to help them with obtaining financing, and that's already been some pieces. I didn't want to jump the gun with any of these guys before this meeting and try to talk too much before too much. But long and short, they're gonna. We've mentioned the idea of some specs because I think that's going to be extremely. To me, this is kind of a non-conversation unless we can bring some people in that can do specs. I mean,
yeah, they have to be able to, they can't just wait for the buyer to want to do customs because we have to showcase.
otherwise, for us to sell a custom on this idea right off the bat and hope that that's the one that kind of propels us forward, it's going to be difficult. So we have already started those financial talks with some institutions and also with the builders, letting them know that specs are going to be something that we're going to ask of them, especially right off the bat. I've gone into some other developments. The developer will actually force the builder to build a spec and retain that as a model for like 1 year's time. I don't think we need to do anything quite that extravagant yet, but I do think that just having the inventory, I mean, it's going to be huge. So hopefully, if this moves forward, we can hit the ground running and hopefully have some guys ready to go.
Be a shame if you had to sell your spec right off the bat and build another one.
Wouldn't it? Wouldn't it? questions?
Yeah.
What other
We
questions?
appreciate your
Quick,
time,
yeah.
we're excited.
All right, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Yes.
much.
Your evening, y'all start getting
Yeah,
third inning,
nice to
so.
meet you.
It's good to see you.
0-0.
You too. Be good.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to
you so
meet you
much.
guys.
You're welcome.
I want to come over and look at your,
Well, can we please, yeah, we'd love to have you guys even over as something to take a look at, you know, physically see it. and-
What ask
Your wife will be
Yeah.
so.
She's
Absolutely thrilled.
already been, you know, kind
Bless
of,
her heart.
she's been warned, so.
I feel bad for
We're all
her.
for cookouts on the deck.
I'm totally in for that. You can find me there
Blondie
most
doesn't
Friday and
work.
Saturday evening.
There you go.
Thank you guys.
She's what?
Maybe at Prudential?
I don't know. She was not there.
Thank you guys for coming
Hey,
in.
you're welcome.
and
Thank you guys so much.
that, so-
Really
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
thanks a million.
So just, yeah, so this is something we'll probably have on our next council agenda. I'm ready to do something, move
So we do a
forward.
Yes,
30-day
yeah.
cancellation?
Yep.
We'll just do it.
Yep.
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
30
so
days
on
after.
the agenda, we'll have a termination, whatever, Jackie will type up a letter of termination with Crown 3.
Okay.
And then.
Not
at
too
the-
soon.
At the same time, we'll be working on an actual marketing agreement with them.
Okay.
Well, I like their
Me
enthusiasm.
too.
I did too.
Well,
We just
Trent
have to do what's right,
started out
'cause-
here with,
We signed.
I can't remember the company when we first moved here.
Wasn't it Plaza?
It was Plaza.
Plaza de So.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was Plaza de Sol for years.
I can't think of the lady that was over him, but she would never let him do anything.
And then it was YM and then,
Was it Angie?
Yeah. She was worthless.
we're on TV.
All right, well, we've just heard two great presentations all about relationships and moving the city forward. So we're going to talk about our next item, which is the Community Development Committee. We had a couple votes to do away with that at the last meeting, and so need to have some conversation to see what it is that you guys want to do moving forward with that committee. So you want to take it away?
I asked to have this on the agenda, and I want to say right up front, it was not because I necessarily want to do away with the committee at all. I just think we need to look at it. We need to make sure everything's working. If we need this, which we probably do, we need something to do our community events and this type of thing. But, you know, I was concerned when I was liaison for that committee that we hadn't really looked at the bylaws and maybe weren't following what our mission was, or didn't really, some of the people didn't really understand the mission. And so I think that, I'm glad you've got those printed out, and the resolution. So I just think the council needs to look at it, think about it, talk about it, see what we need to do. Betty and I were both very concerned at the last event because there weren't any volunteers. And a lot of people on the committee weren't there, you know? And we were very concerned. So I want to hear what the rest of the council has to say.
My position has not changed. I'm in favor of dissolving the committee. And afterwards, if the council wants to produce another volunteer group, that's okay. But this group, for everything I've heard from the council members, they, like I said before, they're not the same kind of volunteers that we have on the tree board. The tree board we now have a full committee on the tree board, which we haven't had for years. These people volunteer, you know, their time and their work, and the tree board gets nothing. They get nothing, not 1 cent from the city, except when they buy a tree, they'll send a bill to the city to pay for the tree. But the tree's like $250 or something like that. To have $10,000 given to them and not do what people wanted. We wanted woodlawn taken care of with flags or lights or whatever. And so, as far as I'm concerned, I will vote for dissolving it. And I was defeated last time. I understand that, yeah. But I'll still vote the same way. Finished.
And my concern, as I read these were not quite the same as the bylaws that I got when I was chairman of that committee. But we were trying to follow the ones that we got, but, it's collaboration with the Chamber of Commerce, pursuit and active assistance with recruiting new and prospective businesses in concert with the Chamber of Commerce. Chamber of Commerce is struggling itself out here because we don't have that many businesses, and the businesses that are here are busy. They don't have a lot of time for lunches, and, so there are some good things. I mean, the Chamber has started having, interaction with Valley and Park City and, those kinds of things, mixing up, the knowledge of those people. But as far as I know, this committee had no idea or no interaction with them. And some of those events that, we've had, the marketing is mostly to our internal people, which is as it should be. But I know several people from here who went to Keachai's Fair, which was just a couple or 3 weeks ago. And they didn't do a humongous, but they did things that were fun and were for everybody. It wasn't just for kids or, that kind of thing. So I think we need a major revamp. This resolution may be a good start, but it needs a major revamp.
Well, on the resolution number R1319, I was the one that brought up the bylaws, which was never signed. And I know that there was a signed copy at one time because Rick passed them out.
Right.
And evidently it can't be found. But between the bylaws and the resolution, it's practically the same thing. And the committee is not following. They jumped from what they were supposed to do when it was first established, in my opinion, and started doing the fun things because nobody else would do them. Well, I think it ended up that we didn't advertise, or they didn't advertise, or somebody didn't advertise to help with the Bel Aire Festival, fall and spring, the Santa Claus thing. And I know at one time the Lions Club took over the Christmas thing because we couldn't find anybody to do it. So and I guess from what I'm hearing, when they had the father-daughter dance or ball or whatever at the rec center, it went over real big. But that wasn't involving this committee. So I don't know who dropped the ball on getting this bylaws signed, or where the signed bylaws are, or if they were ever signed. I don't know. But they definitely need to go back to this resolution like everybody else has to do. We have to follow the ordinances and the resolutions. And if there are people on this committee that says, well, I'll be glad to do that. Excuse me. That'll be fine. If they want to resign, and we ask somebody else, that's fine also. Also, it says in here that when there's vacancies on the committee and each member of the governing body may submit recommendations for the appointment of the committee. Just so that that's made clear, because I think in the past, some of our recommendations were lost or not taken care of. That's all.
And I think the bylaws that you have may be the same ones that I have, but I couldn't lay my hands on.
Well,
Between
I looked down in my
6
basement
and
for
6:30.
the one that was signed, because I know that when Rick was here, we got signed copies. But I can't find
Yeah.
it.
I can't find it. Okay, we'll look some.
I looked through my files and I had the bylaws, but I didn't have a signed copy, but I know I've seen a signed copy.
Okay.
And I probably have it someplace at home in another file cabinet or whatever.
Well, I personally feel as long as they follow the resolution, and we can come back at a later date and time and redo the bylaws, because the resolution was done on,
June 18th to 13th.
just a minute, Peggy,
That's just helping you.
on the 18th of June, which all of us would have been on that council.
Except
And
Diane.
why it slipped through.
Except for Diane.
13.
Yeah. Why that slipped through without the bylaws being signed, I don't know. But
Can I ask a question? Yeah. Why did the bylaws jump from Article 6 to 8 to 11? We're 7 and then 9 and 10.
What I'm thinking is this was kind of a working copy and so I don't think that's why this was never signed, because I think this
Because
was
they
just something. we were
deleted
working on.
those, 'cause
Yeah, one of the
Yeah.
things I looked at this afternoon, we were talking about deleting one of them, and I'm sure, because when this committee was begun originally, we really looked at these bylaws and we changed them as we went along. We said, well, we aren't doing that anymore, we're gonna do this. And so, to me, the mission that we have written down here in the bylaws and the resolution has really changed tremendously. And if we hire somebody that's going to help us with some of the things this committee was originally designed to do, because we couldn't afford to hire anybody, you know, then we need to change the mission of this committee, because it's very different. And I think that we need a working group of volunteers to do things in the city. You know, we used to have so much fun when we worked on Bel Aire days. The Lions Club has a lot of fun working together, just like the tree board has fun working together. When you work on a committee with a group of volunteers, you become bonded. You know, it's like a group that you never forget. You're friends, you enjoy working together, you're doing something you believe in. And it's really a wonderful experience, you know, to be a volunteer and to have a mission and really do things together that are just fantastic.
Well, and I could go back to the recycling committee.
no.
Well, I mean, we worked, I mean, it was volunteers
That's
that
right,
carried
that's the type
that
of thing.
for many years through about
Exactly.
3 different city administrators, not all of them full-term kinds of things, but, you know, waiting on that political process to occur while we were doing it. And it was hard work, but we had a lot of fun down there, and, you know, and...
You never forget it. You make friends for life, you know, and that's the kind of camaraderie, the kind of group that we need that'll really get out there and show up. You know, when you do something, you need people that are going to show up and be there and let's get it done. And so there's something that has happened along the way that we just got off track a
And
little
I
bit.
think, I was gonna say, if I can just, thanks for bringing it, I'm glad we're having this conversation, because I think it's January, you know, when I reached out to every single member on the committee, I was able to reach 9 of the 10 of them, because attendance had been so bad in the winter. And you reconfirmed, and that's when they decided to move their meetings to Tuesday. And, you know, we've had 5 meetings since then. They've had a quorum at 4 of them.
No, they've only had a quorum once.
No, they've had a quorum, but 4.
You have to have, there's 12 people on the committee?
No, there's 10.
Or 10, okay. That means you have to have 6 people there to have a quorum. And as far as I know, that's only happened at one
No, it
meeting.
happened in February. March was the only time that March we only had 1, 2, 3, 4 people that were there, and I know that was over the week of spring break. Now, April, I could be mistaken, April we had 5. I was thinking 5 was a quorum, because there were 10. Okay, so 1, 2, so, but the last 2 months, May and June, they have had a quorum. And then February, right after I called everybody in January. So if there is some momentum and forward, the committee is starting to do some things, get that revamped. So are we wanting to?
Who's the president now?
Who knows?
I think it's Jeff Hawes is the president.
Because if you look at that list, I mean, you guys are going back, to for instance, the Fall Festival, when I believe most of those people did work the fall, but a lot of the people on this list weren't around when we did like years ago, the parade or whatever.
Right.
And I think that we have to be careful. I don't think it's a bad group of volunteers when you look at this name and you see. I just think they need to have whoever's the president direction and say, okay,
That's the thing.
you are to do this event, get 5 volunteers or whatever, because these people come and volunteer, and the bylaws say they don't even have to meet every month.
Right.
It says only should meet when called upon by the mayor, city manager, city council, committee chairperson, or majority of the committee meetings. And I would just hate to, I think there's so much potential on that committee. You look at that committee, that is one of the strongest groups of people. I just don't want to do, like they say, throw out the baby with the bathwater. You just need to say, here's your bylaws, here's what we want, here's what we want for the fall, and just a little bit of direction. I mean, we have tons of other committees, and I don't see us saying to them, we're gonna dissolve them.
That's because they're doing their job.
Well, that's insulting to say these people are not doing their
Well,
job.
Well,
It's
this is the
truth.
thing, this is what I want to say. I don't want to put anybody down, that I don't want to discourage volunteers
why
in
would
any
we?
Well,
way.
yeah.
Because we need to encourage
I
volunteers.
agree.
And so I want to be very careful about that. But it's the direction, the leadership, and we look at these bylaws, we need to really be serious about what do we expect? What do we need for the city of Bel Aire? What needs to be done? And that's what we really need to go back and say, okay, what needs to be done? Because we've had a couple of events, we've named several of them, that there just wasn't the participation that I would hope we would see from volunteers on that committee, And not to put down any people or anything like that, but it just needs to be the same kind of, let's get it done, let's be a team, let's work together, Somehow we need to foster that so that we can do the kinds of things like Chi Chai or,
Well, I
some of
think
these
we
other
do.
big
We've had
things.
great events.
And because we just barely did the Easter egg hunt. That just barely came
But if you
off.
guys remember in the past, we had that church for the last 4 years volunteer. So many people that you didn't have this year. That
Yeah.
was who came out. Do you guys remember? They would come and bring 50 people.
And see, that's another thing.
Do you remember that?
Well, I think we had a lot of people.
No, on your
Because of the-
volunteers. Do you remember that
I
church?
only remember them for a couple of years.
They
Revolutionary
came-
Church.
They came for 4 or 5 years, and they did face painting, they did balloon, they did all that
I
stuff
don't
over
think
here.
so, Peggy.
No.
They might have come for 1 or 2 events, but I don't remember them being
They
that
came, I
involved in
think, a
everything.
couple of years, but
Yeah.
not
They
4 or
came.
5.
Yeah, I know they came at least a
Several.
couple of years, and yeah, they did.
Well, I will say this, Rick was wonderful about gathering volunteers. And that's what you have to do. You have to be able to inspire people to come and want to work together. And for all the right reasons, it's a wonderful experience being a volunteer. And I've just been hoping that we'll get that kind of camaraderie going in that group, because we have had a couple of very disappointing shows, you might say, as far as people showing up. And I know that it's discouraged some of the members on the committee that have been showing up. When you've got a real hard worker that's there over time, and then the other people don't show up, it's discouraging, you know, and you think, and then they think, why do I do everything and the other people don't help, you know? So that's something else we need to be aware of, that everybody's kind of pulling in and working together.
And the bylaws do talk about if you've missed 3 consecutive meetings, and there are, I mean, they have had, 7 of the 10 people have shown up 3 of the last 5 meetings. So attendance has been improving, but 2 of those have missed 3 in a row. So I think there's a start. You take those 2 out, then you've had, 7 of 8 at the last.
And I don't know that we really want to take anybody out. That's not a definite rule that they have to go, but it is
Well, I think you need a rule
You
like
need the
that.
rule,
Yeah.
because if
Well,
they miss
there's-
3 consecutive meetings, just like on planning commission, if they miss 3,
There's 2 of them that
they're
haven't
off.
been to a meeting this year.
I know. We're all aware of that.
So,
And also, another thing I want to say that I thought should be part of this discussion, I do think we need liaisons for every committee, because it's just the connection with the council and the work of the committee. If the council establishes a committee, there should be a liaison there. So I don't think we should have meetings on Tuesday night, because even after they said that, as far as I know from what I heard, which I didn't see in writing, anything wasn't given to us, but after that, after they started meeting on Tuesday, there wasn't a quorum, as far as I know, except at one meeting after that was established.
They started that in February, and like you said, they've had a quorum 3 of the last 5.
Well, but we've had no minutes. Okay, we've had no
Well,
minutes.
who's your secretary of the,
So, to be honest with you, I'm not sure. I mean,
I don't think they have one.
Yeah. So,
I don't know.
so if we
One of
did,
them go in between, like you'll go months and then you'll get minutes from the other committees. I feel like
I
this
think the
board
utility
committee.
advisory committee is pretty good about it.
Yeah.
We
But
get one,
other
I
than
got
that-
one every month from them.
Yeah.
So what do you guys want the committee to do? What would make you guys,
If you do not attend the meetings, then you're not a volunteer. That's why I'll continue to say that. You know, I was part of the tree board for many, many years, and those people volunteer.
Sure.
And if they don't show up for a meeting, then that organization should not exist. It should be dissolved.
but you've got 7 of 8, if you said the accurate. So what would we want of the 7 if they're watching? What do we want from those active members? What would make the council happy?
It doesn't sound to me like we have 7 members that attend the meetings.
That's what
I
you
don't
just
think we
said.
have.
well,
From
okay,
what
I
I've
don't
been
know
told.
what all, I mean,
So what do we want? What, if they're
well,
all
here's the
watching,
attendance
which
list,
they
guys,
said they were
where it
all gonna
shows
watch,
7 of 10 have been there.
what do we want from them?
Well, why doesn't the council get that and, some minutes?
Well, what do we want from them?
So we can ask them to start sending minutes.
I think we need to have people that we can depend on to take part in the events that they're planning, because that seems to be the main purpose of the
There's
committee now.
nothing in here that says in this resolution that they plan
Events.
the events.
Right.
They are to
We
work.
asked them, you guys, to do that. Do you remember?
No, I don't.
Yes, we did. At least I know I did when I was on the council. We asked them to help us with like the fall festival. We asked them to take that on.
I don't remember doing that as a
I know I
council.
did when I was on the council.
Oh, I
Guy,
don't remember
I mean,
either.
Guy, Ty, you might remember or not. I remember we asked them to help us with that.
Yeah, that's what, and I tried to, on my report, a little history. The way I remember it is, because we did, when Harold was here, we had both committees.
Right, and we
And
dissolved.
then the one that was doing the planning of events kind of, well, they got tired of volunteering and.
Well, after 20
and
years,
went away,
get
yeah. So that one went away, and so So I think that's why this group kind of
We
stepped up.
asked them, well, at least
So-
I remember when I was on, we said, would you help us? Because we needed it. And that's how it kind of became. So I think you have to kind of blame former councils that we asked them to take on these, I mean, it may not
But
say in your
it's-
Bible.
yeah, it's not written down.
No.
It's the problem. And, you know, if a person on that committee reads these bylaws, they would say, hey, wait a second, we aren't doing
Well,
what we're
who,
supposed to.
who would do it, you guys? Who's gonna do the fall festival then?
Well, I'm
Because
not arguing
Are you
with that.
wanting us to do it? I mean, I'm
No,
just asking.
I'm not asking that or arguing that at all. What I say is, and I've said this, you know, for the last few years, let's look at the bylaws. We should take this to a meeting, everybody look at it. And really, where I see that this particular group, when Diane was president, the group was deciding what could we do to help market the city. And one of the things you can do to help market your city is to have fun events, right? Wouldn't you say? And that's how that kind of got started with this particular setup and group, you know.
So it sounds like the group has changed direction, but the bylaws have not.
Right.
Have not followed. That's what I'm hearing here, which it makes sense if we want to change the bylaws then.
Well, and
For
even
the-
the
this-
resolution needs some changes.
Okay, but you know, for this committee, because we just heard 2 presentations all about how the gathering spots, events, exactly what we talked about. So,
And I'm a great believer in
yeah,
this.
so to me, this committee is important, and if it's not them, then we'll need to come up with another group, if that's what you guys want to do, to make sure that we continue the events that are successful, and look at other events. So, I guess, you know, my thought was, you know, they meet next Tuesday, right? Maybe we have them look at and bring back an idea of what, so that we know that they know
That's
what's
the
definition.
important part right there. They need to know what they need to do to help the city. And you need to have people that understand it's not just a resume builder to have your name on the list that you belong to a certain committee. That it's actually a working group, that you work together, you have all this wonderful experience, you know, not just going to a meeting every 3 months or 4 months and having your name on the list. You've really got to show up, you know, like on the Easter egg hunt. I think there were 3 committee members there. That's not enough.
So,
We needed a lot more.
Yeah.
so plan and attend events would be huge.
Yeah, participate.
Okay.
And, you know, like when Rick was here, he'd say, well, who's gonna be in charge of getting the music? Or who's gonna be in charge of this or that? Help me out, Diane. And that's the kind of thing you need. You need people to
You
step
have
up.
to
and-
dictate.
Yeah, you take leadership. You get people say commitment. I will do this.
And we actually did spreadsheet kinds of things for that, and we had done that in previous years on the home show, which, you know, I think we've decided maybe not to spend the money on that, if I remember right. But, you know, we had a grid, and every shift was covered, and, you know, it'd come back around if shifts weren't covered, kind of thing, until they were. And, you know, we've got someone now who does Twitter, which I don't do, but, you know, our website has more social media on it. I mean, we have more social media, so I'm not saying that the committee has to do every job, but they've got neighbors, friends, you know, somebody who lives across the street that they don't know, that they can go say, hey, you know, we have this committee and we need help. 'Cause
And I think, and that's a good point there. I think back to what Peggy was saying earlier, you know, last year, a couple of years ago when it was easy because Revolution Church would say, you need 40 volunteers, well, 40 volunteers there. Bada bing, bada boom. This
But
year,
we can't depend on some outside organization.
that's what I was trying to get ready to say that.
Exactly.
So let's make sure the committee knows and understands that, and yeah, I would imagine that these, 7 or 8 regular attenders would
I
want to
wouldn't
continue
call
with
them
that.
regular
Well,
attenders.
guys, here's the attendance list. I don't know, you guys keep saying you only have one
Well,
month, but they
I've
did.
talked to people that have been there, and I don't think that's necessary.
Okay, I'm gonna read it out loud here, guys. In February, Danielle Fisher was there, Linda Scott was there, Chris Jones was there, Joe Woodard was there, Jeff Hawes was there, Jessica Scholes was there, Jeff Elsoff was there. In March, as we talked about, we did not have a quorum. In April, we only had the 5 members. That was Ben Wilburn, Linda Scott, Chris Jones, Joe Woodard, Jeff Hawes. In May, we had 7 people. Danielle Fisher, Ben Wilburn, Linda Scott, Chris Jones, Joe Woodard, Jeff Hawes, Jeff Elsoff. In June, we had 7 members attend. Danielle Fisher, Ben Wilburn, Linda Scott, Chris Jones, Joe Woodard, Jeff Hawes, Jeff Elsoff. So, I mean, attendance has been improving, but let's make sure. So what I'm hearing is we want to make sure that they know what their role is.
And they
Right.
have officers. I think they have minutes.
I'm sure they do.
I think
let's
they
make
have
sure-
it all.
But let's make sure they know that they get it to us.
Well, I think.
Plus, I think they should be moved off of the Tuesday night, any Tuesday night that the council meeting is meeting, because we have some new people that are running for council. And one of the things that helped a lot is when I ran, I went to everybody's meeting.
I think there's some on here that are running, aren't
And
there?
there's a lot on there running. But that's neither here nor there. You can't go to a council meeting plus go to the community development committee. Now, this may be a good time for these people, which I don't want to deny them that, but we did have one resident come and he wanted that changed because he had to come to our meeting. He was a Lions Club member and he couldn't go to their meeting till later, so he was late getting to their meeting. Well, if they work a lot with the Lions Club and work with the commerce people, then how can they meet on the same night that council meets? We don't have any committees that I'm aware of that meets on the same night council meets.
And when did the council decide to do away with liaisons?
I didn't.
I don't know if we ever officially said that we have liaisons.
But you told me
Yes,
that
we
one
did.
night.
Yeah, I thought we did, but it's never officially in there. If that's something you guys want. On Tuesdays, that was the day that they decided was the best for them. So,
But there are 4 Tuesdays in a month.
Right.
mhm.
I mean, they could meet on a workshop night, not a council night.
So do you guys be okay with the second Tuesday, if Tuesday's the day they want to continue?
I don't think it should be Tuesday. I do not think they should meet on a Tuesday.
So are we going to dictate to every committee what nights they can meet on and what nights they can't meet on? I mean,
We don't have to dictate. We don't, I say that they should not meet on the same night that council meets. That's not a dictation, that's a statement of fact that I believe that they should not do. And so there are other days of the week they can meet. The tree board meets on whatever days the tree board decides they want to meet. And, we have a good tree board, and they meet, they say, they simply talk among themselves. When's a good time to meet? Okay, we'll do it this time, this day. But you don't have committees meet on the same day that council has, because.
And I do think it's important for us to have a liaison for every
Yes, it
committee.
is. It's extremely
I
important.
think that is very important. And you can't do that if it's on the same night as the council meetings. I mean, all of these things have to work together. And I'd like to see a list of everybody who's worked at events, the last 3 or 4 events.
Well, yeah, you're the only one that has a list of attendance. None of the rest of us have seen any of that. Nobody's seen any minutes.
And I think we used to have real good attendance.
Can I
when you
just
were on that
ask a
committee.
question?
And there were minutes that were sent in. Now, I remember one of the first things when I came on the council, I visited with the Utility Advisory Committee, and I was told that they sent, I mentioned something about having minutes, and he goes, we send in minutes, but they're never forwarded on to you. And I said, well, that will change, and it has. We get them on a regular
Appreciate
basis
that.
now. And, I just think every committee, we get planning commission minutes intermittently, but that could be because they don't meet every.
Right, we just need to tell them we need them.
Right, right.
But can I make a comment that Councilmember McDonald just said, just so, I just wanted to hear this right. We're telling them when they can and can't meet. But I think you just said the tree board gets to decide when they meet, and they just tell among themselves and then they meet.
Yes.
Isn't that what you said?
Yes.
So why does the tree board get to decide when they meet and this committee doesn't? Because that's what
We
you
just said, I just said.
That's not what he
that-
just said.
I know that's what he said.
He said
But
they
I
choose.
just said.
They choose, yes.
That
Yes.
they could meet any night except on when council is
Exactly.
meeting.
They could meet
Why
on
do they not
Saturdays.
get to choose?
They could meet
They
on
do.
Saturdays
They
or
choose.
No,
Sundays.
you're telling them they can't.
Wait a
Well,
second.
if you have a liaison, how you gonna go?
Well,
The
okay.
tree board does not meet on Tuesdays when there's
But
council.
you guys see what I'm saying? You're telling this committee, you can't do this, but every other committee you can do.
Wait, no, that's not exactly true.
false.
Well, that's
That's
kind of what you said.
What we're saying is the other committees choose to, a night when the liaison can be there.
You don't have a liaison to the planning committee.
Well,
Do you?
I
That's
don't
key.
call them a committee.
We don't
They're
have, we don't have a,
The
we don't have an
planning-
official
They're a board.
liaison to
Yeah.
any committee right now.
Huh?
Planning committee's not
Aye.
like a,
They're
it's a planning
the
commission.
commission board.
Sure.
I attend the tree board meetings. I consider myself a liaison
Sure.
between the council and the tree board so that I can come back to speak to council at a workshop or on the council to bring up a subject that is of importance to the tree board. That's what my position is. Even though I can't be a member, but I attend the meetings, and that's the purpose. And remote, Dr. Becker is saying the same thing.
Right.
Whatever committees we're talking about, they can meet whenever they like and discuss whatever they like with a liaison there. If somebody wants to be a liaison to a particular committee, that person can come back and speak
Sure.
to the
But
council.
isn't Tristan kind of our liaison?
Say it again?
She's
Isn't
not on
Tristan?
council.
No, but she's an employee that kind of is the liaison.
I think
No, she
they-
hasn't been to all the meetings
Oh,
either,
okay.
because that was the other thing too, was letting the
Okay.
committee kind of,
Take
take
charge.
ownership
Okay,
of
I
it
don't know,
was-
I'm just,
yeah.
Well, I think some people on the committee evidently don't understand or don't feel obligated to really help with the things that they're actually doing, because it's been dismal, the participation at events. And I think it's put a big burden on Tristan, because she has to work so hard to make up for other people not really being there and pulling the load. And that was perfectly evident at the Easter egg hunt. That was so very obvious.
So,
And
Mr.
so, I mean, I'm not putting anybody down, perhaps they just didn't understand that.
Right.
But it really makes it hard for Tristan, you know? And so I think that there's been probably some kind of misunderstanding, and people didn't understand really what was expected of them and needed of them, you know?
So we need to make sure the bylaws and resolution serve what the governing body's needs are and the city's needs are.
The cities need.
City's needs are, that they reflect, and that the committee understands what their roles, responsibilities are, which would include participation and planning of current and future events. I'm clarifying to make sure I'm on the same page here as I'm kind of writing all this down.
And you know,
And that you don't want them to meet when we have a council meeting.
I think they need to have a liaison. And I'm not saying it has to be me, although I was very committed to that committee. And you'll remember when I was the liaison for it, that I'd always report at council meetings about what was going on. And I think things were going pretty well, you know? But we need to really look at the mission now as we move forward, especially with our new person coming on to help us. Maybe there'll be other ideas of things we could do, you know, that that would really help the city, market the city. We may be taking the wrong approach on some of these things. So I think we need to carefully look at this, discuss it, talk to other people, find out what we need, and then we need to find people that are excited about doing what needs to be done. Actually being there, participating, being one of those people you can depend on to show up.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, please put this on the agenda. We'll discuss it on council. And the other subject that I brought up was that our city manager has too much to do. He really needs to have a personnel assistant or human resources person to assist him to make decisions about hiring, firing, and also assigning people, staff, assigning staff jobs and understanding the abilities and abilities of staff people and being able to make decisions like that. And I think that's important, and we should put that on the agenda and see if we can get some help from Mr. Lasher.
Mr. Lasher's
Well,
been doing it all.
That's why I said last year on the budget that I wanted Ty to have a personal secretary, but they didn't go for that.
So,
Put that on the agenda and we'll discuss it at
I
council.
like the idea, Betty.
I know.
and
Well, we gotta talk to Ted here in a minute about
Yeah.
the budget and
So-
see if our budget likes the idea.
That's
okay,
right.
so hold on, and so with this, with the committee, can we hang tight? Let's see if we can't revamp the bylaws and let's bring it up at a future meeting, bring that back. You know, because like I said, they meet
As long
next
as it's
week.
at the next meeting, because like this last one, it got forgotten and so it didn't get signed.
Are you saying, he's saying, can we do it in our workshop in August, I think, is what you're
Well-
saying?
Well, I'd
So
like
they
to-
can re-sign it and talk?
I think we need to let them talk about, their responsibilities and
Because I think
everything.
they're all watching, so.
Yeah.
I don't
And
care
then-
if they are watching.
and then
We've
we
said
need-
that 3 times.
Well, I'm just saying, so they can know direction.
Let's live remote finish.
But then I
I'm sorry.
think we need to speak with our new person we're bringing on board that could give us some ideas. Are we doing this right? Is this what we should be doing? Do you have any other ideas? Is there anything more we can do? And I think we really need to light a fire under our volunteers and make sure they show up, and that Tristan and 1 or 2 other volunteers doesn't have to carry the load all by themselves. Because, there's no way that we could do a 2-day festival like they did, was it Kichai? There's no way we could do that without a lot of dedicated volunteers. And personally, I think they should be people that live in Bel Aire and really, I don't think we should depend on any outside organizations or any outside churches or anything like that, because this is our city and we want our people to be excited about working for our city and doing what we need.
One of the things that was expressed to me when I was on that committee was expanding the cooperation of other groups with that committee. In other words, going to the churches and saying, what do you do that we could maybe expand a little bit? Or can we count on your church to, I don't know, run a bingo game? Is that even legal anymore? I don't know, but
I don't think churches are gonna do that anymore.
But, to add something to an event that was being planned, because that's exactly what Kichai was doing. Several of their businesses
Well, yeah.
actually took it, and, one of them was doing the bean toss or something, and, somebody did one of the churches, I think, did the chili feed and that kind of
And
thing.
they'll have, every
And-
small community does this. They'll have one group that does the bake sale, and one group does the garage sale as part of it, and another group does the races and stuff like that, It takes
Well, and I had the Delano Fall Festival, which is in October. I had their flyer with me at the last meeting. Some of you saw it. And I get it because a friend of mine sort of heads up that kind of thing. She used to have a business in Delano. But it's in October, and they're done with the planning. The only part that's not there is that they rent out booze to commercial entities. And so she doesn't know how many booths she'll have and some things like that. But, you know, all the activities are planned, unless something great comes along, and then she'll add it in. But, you know, I mean, and the flyer's done, and it's what, July?
Yeah.
And that's in October. When we're doing it at, you know, 2 weeks before the event,
It didn't work.
That's right.
It doesn't.
Everything should be planned a year ahead of time, you know?
We used to start Bel Aire Days in January.
Okay, so again, just to make sure, we're going to, we've had a council member ask that we have adding an executive assistant, personnel assistant or something to the agenda. We're going to ask the CDC to really talk amongst themselves at their next meeting, do some soul searching,
Right.
and come back first, somehow submit something through us so that they are on the same page of understanding of what it is, what their role is.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're not going to put anything about disbanding or making a new one on the
Can
agenda.
we just get minutes in our packet? We could get the minutes, whoever's the secretary.
Yes, yes.
Need a list of officers and
Okay.
minutes and, you know, part of doing a successful event is having committed people that are gonna be there and take on, I'll do this part. So Tristan doesn't have to do everything herself, you know?
No wonder she didn't gain any weight.
Mr. Mayor, you just said that we're not going to say anything about dissolving the committee. I'm a member of the council, and if I want to make a motion to dissolve this particular committee, I will do so at a council meeting. I will do that, and I'm not going to be told that I can't do that. And so I'll be voted down. I understand that. I don't have any problem with that. But I have to express my thoughts, and if my thoughts are along those lines, that's what I was elected to do. And I'm running for re-election, and if people don't like what I do on council, they don't vote for me, and I won't be re-elected. And that's okay. I have no difficulty with that. But I'm not going to be told that I can't make a motion to dissolve any particular committee. I could make a motion to dissolve the tree board if I wanted to. I'm not going to, but if I wanted to. And I have that right. Every single member of this council has the right to do that. So I don't like it suggested that I don't have that right.
I don't think anyone suggested.
I think you did. Yes,
How did I do that?
It's what you said. Look at you said that we're not going to make any motion to dissolve a council. That's what you said. It may not be your exact words.
That's what I was asking to see if that was a consensus. Got a consensus for those three. You're telling me you still want it on the agenda. We can put it on the agenda.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, then don't accuse me of telling you that you can't do something. I was asking for clarification. You just clarified.
No,
We'll have
you
it on the
said,
agenda.
what you said was that we're not going to make any motion to dissolve a committee. They're your words. They're not the exact quote, but that's what you said to
Well,
me.
that's
And
what-
I don't want to be told that I can't do that.
Well, I'm not telling you. I thought that's
That's
where
what
we
you
were
said.
heading.
That's what
I
you
know
said.
that's what I said because that's where I thought we were heading.
Well,
And you have just corrected and said that you want that on the agenda. We'll put it on the agenda. It's
Good.
not worth arguing over. We'll have it
No,
on the
it
agenda.
is. When you tell me I can't do something.
I didn't tell you you couldn't do
You
something.
said, we're not going to talk about not dissolving a committee, is what you said.
I said, am I here? I wanted to make sure I was hearing that right. I never said you couldn't do that. We will have that on the agenda. Okay?
Well, it's a matter of semantics, because we've all kind of said this committee as written down here is not gonna go on like this. It needs to be changed, and so,
We'll have it on the agenda, and in the meantime, I will go ahead and ask them to do kind of what we talked about to make sure that they, okay?
Okay, and also Tuesdays, not meet on Tuesdays. That's an important part.
Now
for
when they have
any
a
of the
council
committees.
meeting, or-
No, when it's a council meeting, no.
I just think it's important to have liaisons for a committee like that. I really do. I mean, it's a practice we've done for years.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to go into a recess for 5 minutes. We
don't
have
have
a
to make-
long.
Don't have to make
Huh?
We have to open a special meeting to go into any sort of executive session during.
I didn't say executive
Shouldn't say
session, I
recess.
said
Recess.
You
recess.
can just go.
Can you have
He
like a
did.
bathroom break or something?
Yes. Yeah, yeah,
I think
yeah.
they're wanting to get home.
Okay.
Yeah, or Ted, we have one more item.
Because the next thing is the agenda of the budget, and it's gonna take a while.
You think?
That's probably a good idea to have a little break.
Take a recess.
Mhm, yeah.
Break.
I'm sorry if you wanna go home early, but I've had it.
I think we can all just get up and go in.
Yeah, there's no,
Can't
this is
we?
not a formal.
Well, we
Yeah.
can, but I just think that you need to have a break between now and starting with the budget, and so that things are not discussed when other people are gone.
I think that's a good idea.
No, it's
All right,
early
we'll
up-
start budget discussion at 9:10.
Good.
Does anybody need anything to drink? Pop?
What do you have?
Yeah.
Caffeine, no caffeine?
I don't even drink, and I want to drink.
I need a bourbon and Coke.
Hardest we have is carbonated pop.
And I don't drink pop anymore.
Peggy, you've never said anything to me. I keep waiting for you to say something. Take a look when you walk out of the meeting tonight.
I didn't say anything.
You want some more water,
Did I
Donnie?
not look at something when I came in?
I don't know, it was an off thing we talked about. I had Jason line up the,
Oh, no, I saw.
Oh, did you?
I was gonna tell you who these they are. No, I did see when I came up.
They,
Thank you.
No, I didn't. And he kind of did it. He kind of did it to line up the pictures instead of the frames because it was so hard.
It was
to-
so nice. No,
No,
I
no.
actually, when I walked up the steps, I thought, Ted,
We-
you're awesome. Did you
We-
see the?
No, what, might
Yeah.
as well, we might as well go ahead and take a break too.
Yeah, I'm gonna take a break too. My husband wants to know if I'm going to get home before midnight.
Yeah. I got,
Ted, I'm sorry, you should have just come now.
we got.
Well, yeah.
Because this could be a 2-minute conversation.
Yeah, that's why I kind of designed it to be as short and as long as I wanted it to. But I tried it. Okay. Do you have your stuff? Yep. Okay. Oh, I got mine too. I kind of designed it for short or long or whatever you want. Okay. We don't have to go line by line, but I'll just ask them. To get you some hard stuff?
Yeah, we're out of water.
Oh, we have a water?
Yeah, we're out of water, yeah. So I just bought that out for some, anybody wants it, they can have it. If you want it, you can have it.
No, I'm fine. I thought maybe you're.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're out of water in there.
Hey, got it.
You're calling it, okay. I'll just turn it. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I like it. Oh, thank you. These last steps, but those two guys are. And this city's going to be full. And I hope you get somebody to help you.
I'm sorry, how can you hear us all right?
No, I can, I can hear, I've got to hear noise, but I've heard everything, so forth.
Try.
Okay.
If it doesn't work, we'll keep trying.
That's good. Can't ask for anything better than that, Ty. I appreciate it.
Jackie, have you ever seen anything like us? She was really. We're on.
Over here?
Right. That's what you're saying.
That's why we got snacks.
Yeah.
So, no, he's walking around out there. I was gonna say he's not there in the office, but that's okay.
I bet he's smoking a cigarette, so.
Oh,
Anyway,
So
yeah, he's
here's
back.
the cards. Pass those around.
Yeah, we've got them. I think
Did you
they've been passed around.
I'm
Okay.
excited
Yeah, we all
about
have.
those
Okay,
guys.
good.
They seem fantastic.
Yep.
That's neat. I can't wait to see all these houses popping up. This is gonna be
I
fun.
like they're proactive and they're current. You know, that's.
Well, they'll design the website for me.
Oh, wouldn't that be fantastic?
Isn't that something the other was supposed to do 2 years ago?
Did you have him turn that off?
Yeah, and I,
That's why I was great.
and if you just don't remember, I voted against him a couple years ago. Probably not. But these guys are,
Yeah, I think that's
That's why
totally.
we shortened the term on this, because,
Start came on with
you know,
$1,600.
we didn't have any
Oh,
others.
my God.
okay.
Betty, you need to take me with you.
She offered to take me a couple weeks ago and we couldn't
She
do it. I'm
needs to
gonna.
teach me her technique.
No kidding.
And I didn't win it all on one machine.
Good clean living, isn't it? Technique.
She's like my parents. My parents won every.
And I only took $100 with me, so I got it.
All righty.
I didn't get it.
Peggy, we're gonna
Go ahead.
go ahead. Okay. Let's go ahead. Get started. The budget.
Sure. I just kind of made a quick handout right here this morning. Ty caught me. I tried to make it a little easier on everybody and bundle the budget together, so you can see that as well.
Yeah, it's nice. Very
Yeah,
nice.
it's a lot easier than having multiple packets.
And the pages are numbered.
and numbers and everything. Let's start with this handout, though. This is pretty much the budget calendar. Tonight, what we want to do is have kind of the budget form so that on next Tuesday, I'll make my budget presentation, we'll approve it and set a hearing. All it does is just sets a hearing, and then the citizens can come express. We can still work on the budget. It's just a part of the process. One of the biggest things, and I think you heard about it last council meeting, we talked a lot about, is the refinancing of our land debt. Amazing process to be part of. And the skinny of it is we save about 2% in interest rate and about a little over $2 million in budgetary savings over the life of the bonds, which is really good. Ty and I got an email from our bond counsel yesterday, which is crazy enough. We closed on June 20th. Since then, the market trend has went up, so bond markets have increased, and now it's 22 points or 0.22% higher than it was when we sold our bonds. And because our issue is so big, that accounted for about a little over $400,000 we would have gave up if we would have waited another month. That was a really, no one can really take credit for it, but Ty and I said we'll take credit for it if we want to.
Why not?
Well, the council's got to take credit.
Yeah, I think it was the council.
You
You did.
Nobody gets a $400,000 raise.
Yeah.
But there's 400,000.
On page 2, I tried to show what that means for this budget cycle and 2017. So table 1 says pretty much what we adopted to having ending balance of about 1.5 million or 30% of revenues. When you subtract $310,000, which is what the savings for 2017 is, then you get 1.8 million in ending balance. So that changes the game a little bit, what we've been talking about since here. So now we have, we're projecting to end 2017 with about 36% of our revenues. So table 2 shows all the work we've done so far before we reissued or refinanced the bonds. And what we had was about, in the proposed, or I guess table 2 shows, exactly what we had. And we were projected to end 2018 with about 1.4 million. Now, because we saved money in 2017, table 3 shows now we have 1.7 million projected to end, which is 32%
so we target 30%, so we have 2% more than what we target, or so now we start discussions about what priorities have we established and how do we fund them
Traffic
now.
and whatever streets.
And that's what page 3 does, is pretty much says we're going to fully fund the streets at the $400,000 level. And I'll go through it categorically, but so in fiscal year 2018, we'll save another $40,000 from the refinance, so you have to do that. I removed the Christmas decoration budget per the wishes, the council's wishes last workshop, so that saved another $10,000. I increased the transfer to street improvements by $100,000 to put us at that $400,000 level. The 5% right now, where we talked last workshop, was we had a 5% increase as a buffer for health insurance for our employees. Now we went up to 10 just to give us a little more buffer. That cost around $31,000 to do that. And then judging from kind of what we talked about last council or workshop and this workshop, to hire the professional developer on contract, I added that as well in our budget. Those are the only changes I really made. Table 4 represents.
I have a question.
Oh, yeah.
I was at the Navajo Reservation when we had the budget thing, and I finally got to watch it with the audio. And I just wanted to earmark, because I would like to propose, and I can get voted down, but at least as we redo it, I would like to put back in something for a budget so we can at least have something still next year for our city as we're growing. I want to be able to have some type of fair like they're talking about at Keachai or something. So I would like to get that put back in. I don't know when you want me to tell you, but I want to talk about while it was here, because I didn't. And then if we don't spend it, let's say we do dissolve it and we don't spend it, it's something that can just always go back into general fund, but it's always so hard to find it if it's not. And I just see, like tonight, so exciting talking with these builders and then talking with this new guy, like they come out and we want to have some really big 4th of July thing, because I was thinking that on the 4th, man, wouldn't it be neat if someday we could even do with our own land out here, have people come or something. So I don't know, but I may be the only one, but I'd like to have it in there, and then we don't have to necessarily spend it.
You're talking about the $10,000?
Yeah, that you guys asked to take out. I watched
I
it.
circled that here too, because I didn't say take it out last time, but what we did here last time is that there was disappointment that it was not spent on Woodlawn the way the council had envisioned it when we put it in there.
Yeah, I watched the meeting, and I just wanted to interject that, because I think there's exciting things on the horizon that we may want to have a huge celebration next year.
Well, and even, I go back, every other little town in Kansas has Christmas decorations where people see them every day. Their main drive, everybody goes down Woodlawn. And I've driven by the Woodlawn Park right there by the fire station. That's always full. Everybody uses that. It's a great community gathering place, and everybody drives by it all the time. We've got a beautiful big pine tree right there by the tennis courts, right on Woodlawn. Why couldn't we just put lights on that? Is that impossible?
I don't think there's a pole.
Yeah,
well, there may not be a pole, but you know what we have nowadays? Solar lights.
True.
Can you imagine? And some cities do this. So wouldn't that be fun?
So can we take the $10,000 back? Maybe we call it community development.
That's what it's called right now.
That out there.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to do it while we were on this page, because I didn't know when to do it.
I agree with Peggy that you just don't put it in the CDC. Just put money back into the budget. That's fine.
Okay.
And,
For marketing.
I think we could have we should have a market just right across the street where people come in the summertime and sell their produce and so on. People love it. That was part of the survey.
Yes,
There were a lot of
that is true.
There was a lot
I'm
of
going to
positive.
totally have an ADD moment here, because I want to
that's
piggyback on
a
what Councilman
good
McDonald
idea.
just said and let everybody know. This morning I actually had breakfast with the candidate who's running for mayor in Keachai. He's running unopposed, and that was one of the very things we talked about, was because we talked about with the farmers market, and I brought up that was something that we really wanted to do, and he was very much in favor of having, really working as a region, so, sorry.
Sure, that's good.
Totally off topic, but I just realized
Yeah,
that.
that
I
was
wanted
on
to let you
top-
guys know I had that
was-
breakfast this
That was
morning.
on topic. That was
Okay.
good.
Where are you gonna put the 10,000?
Put it back in
community,
Just put it
community
back in the
development
budget.
as maybe a marketing line or something. And you guys still have lots of control over the
Right.
budget.
Right. 'Cause they
We
can't
only
write a
have, we can't spend $10,000 on anything. So we'd have to come to you and ask for, any kind of
They didn't in
appropriation.
the past.
Well,
They bought a $2,000, $3,000 Christmas tree and planted it out here. And that came out of the 10,000 that we gave them last year.
I don't know.
I'm sure they have their reasons, but yeah, we can ask for that.
Yeah.
I'd
But
rather
that
have
was-
it go back in the, general fund or whatever and save it for those other guys.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
Well, I
have
don't
no
want to
problem.
not have it if we want to have a fair or a July 4th or a fall festival.
Or we
We
want to
have
do
a, we have a
Christmas
land
decorations.
development fund we could.
We don't have to give it to them, even
Yeah,
if
it's
it's
not
there.
But the thing is, you can't just throw money at them. You have to have
But we
people
got to
who
have
are
it
committed
in
to
there.
making it happen.
I think if it's in general, we won't get to do it.
It's not just
If it's
money
general,
that
we
makes
can do
things
it.
happen.
Council can
It's-
say,
Okay.
yeah, we are going to do this, and
Yeah, I think we
the
should have
budget
it in
director
there.
will take
You
it,
can call it
spend
whatever
the
you
money.
want,
Okay.
marketing or whatever, but I think we need to get some,
Playful
Let's
signals.
call it marketing, just, are you guys okay?
Well,
That way. it's-
Marketing, but I don't want it in that committee
it-
thing.
yeah.
This isn't necessarily going directly to the committee, it's just in there for, that way if they have an idea, it's there. If our new developer has an idea, right, that's what I'm hearing, right? So,
and then this is another reason it's good to have a liaison member
Mhm,
with a group like this when they're discussing this. Is it realistic? Is it something the council would go for? Is it the best thing for Bel Aire? That's the purpose of a liaison being there, working with people.
Okay, question, Ted.
Sure.
I was the one that said to remove the Christmas decoration budget from that committee and put it, excuse me, put it over in streets. Evidently, you came up with the 400,000 someplace else. And so that gives them plus the 100,000, so that makes 500,000 for streets?
No, I just was trying to say that 400,000 was your guys' total.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much the max we can do and stay within our
Okay.
targeted limits. That gets us good interest rates, and that's really my job, is to tell you guys what you know.
which I want to say thank you.
What's the best
because
way to go about things
Thank
when I'm
you.
talking to S&P? That's what they're looking for.
Having $400,000 for street improvements, I think.
That's huge.
everything
Thank
And,
you.
and I think page 4, and we can continue the talking, but I'd really like to talk about page 4, and these are really our goals, and I kind of put some bullets underneath it. It says hold the mill levy at current levels. The 2018 budget does that. We've had 0 proposed property tax increase in the last 5 years. Continue to look for ways to keep the costs down, reorganize to efficiently deliver services. 2018 budget keeps staffing levels flat. It's made possible by increased responsibilities for all employees. Refinance land debt, like we talked about. Staff takes more time and effort to maintain and repair our equipment. This extends the useful life and saves money. We purchased some online training software, which increases the knowledge of our officers and decreases the expense. Fiscal stability, which is my thing, is apply conservative estimates for revenues and expenditures. Maintain a 30% revenues and reserves for unexpected rainy days. Find ways to increase funding for street improvements. Now, we've done 400,000 this year again, and that's 800,000 the past 2 years. This goal is a direct result of the 2016-17 survey results. So I think that frames it really well, and we can add and subtract and do whatever, but I just, as a budget director or as a finance director, we always want to concentrate on the goals and priorities, because that's really what you guys do for the city, is set those goals and priorities, and we go chase it. So, and that's the other thing is, Councilman McDonald wants to talk about staffing, and that's another area where we'll have to keep talking about, because I really don't want, right now we're about 72% when you calculate our personnel and our debt. That's quite a bit of the total budget that we're spending on that. So when we start talking about operational expenditure versus one-time expenditures, we really got to be careful on the operational side for when our debt liability increases on that land, so we can maybe pull back a little bit in the street improvements and add to our. So that's really what the conversation we'd have if we wanted to talk about staffing levels. We'd have to see the 5-year forecast I put out. I'd create a presentation, and that's how I say we'd go about it. But
It's gonna, if we get an assistant
Yeah.
for Ty, it's gonna cost money,
Yeah,
It's gonna cost a
anything.
salary,
Yeah.
And I understand that, but I also understand the tremendous weight on the staff members, and he can't do everything, so I will vote in
yes, he
favor
can.
of that at the next council meeting, and we'll see how the council thinks at that time.
Well, let me ask, because we were kind of talking about this here, and I'm putting you on the spot, especially now, it sounds like obviously we've not voted, haven't taken binding action, but it looks like we're, most likely going to be adding a developer. Is that going to help enough and take off enough, or do you think that, do you need, is this, the position that's being proposed, and with the developer come on, is this something that you feel that you need, or would be great, would be beneficial? Is this something that we should really look at and try to get? I'd like to hear, and if you're not prepared to talk about that tonight, I completely understand, but I think we should have that conversation before we vote on it.
No, it's, yes, this developer Jerry would be a huge help. And like Marla and I were talking a week or so ago, is, one of our biggest scares is that him and I are going to make a mistake because we're not developers. And so having Jerry be tremendous. Plus, we have had some failed developments. But again, I am not on the business side to understand how performers work and things like that. So these businesses can come in and say, oh, we're great, and here's our performance, look how good we're going to do. And to have someone on the business side like Jerry to look that over and say, I don't agree with this, would be very helpful. So that will help me a lot. The other side of it, and like Betty had said, last year to budget in a person, and Guy saying that, and the struggle I have is that I know we're tight on money. And, yes, it's always nice to have more help, but I also know that we have got budget issues with land and stuff, and so where do we get that money is the hard part that I struggle with is, sure I would like that, but can we afford it? And how does that affect our budget and long-term with payments and stuff, just like what Ted said? That's the struggle I have, is balancing that. And I certainly think that with having the help that we're going to have with the developer, then maybe Ted and I can look at our staff that we have and say, just what you had mentioned is, okay, do we have everybody in the right seats? We talk about, good to great. He talks about, Jim Collins talks about, you have the right people on the bus, are they on the right seats and things like that. And honestly, I haven't had time to do that. Because I'm trying to be the developer and things like that. So by what I hope that you're moving forward on with some development assistance will help you a lot. So maybe I could spend a little more time internally and look at what we're doing.
I would like you to have an assistant, because I don't think you've been trained in personnel. I don't think you've been trained to be able to look at the capabilities and whatever. And that's fine. I don't think you have an inclination for it, as a matter of fact. But if you had an assistant who was the personnel director or the human resources director or whatever you want to call her or him, doesn't matter. That person could look at staff and make those determinations. She could hire, fire, and distribute the workload. And I think that's important for you to have. I've said that 5 times already, so I'll shut up.
Are you doing any of that now, Ted? the human resources stuff?
I thought she was the human resources.
No, I do most of the day-to-day, all the paperwork that involves human resources.
Which a lot
Ty
of
makes
it is
Ty makes
paperwork.
all the career development. We kind of tag team it. This was one of Michelle's jobs that I inherited. I've grown a lot by doing it, which is good training for one day, hopefully. But it's Ty does most of the directional human resources, I guess, and I do a lot of the paperwork, which I need to know.
Well, Tony, by doing this, do you feel that we're trying to take things away from you, to lower your esteem, or whatever you want to call it? Because that's not the intention. I wanted you to have a helper and that kind of stuff, but I don't want you to feel like, well, gosh, that council is taking stuff away from me. What am I doing?
No, I mean, I don't feel that at all. I
Okay.
mean, I honestly appreciate that you're willing to see that, and so, no, I don't feel that. I mean, the more staff that we can have that can have expertise on things is great. It's just, like I said, my other struggle of knowing all of our budget struggles and things like that is, okay, how do we make that fit? And like you all know, we all just have had to pick up all these different jobs. I mean, you know, Ted does all the paperwork for the personnel stuff, and Jackie now is going to be great.
She was wanting to,
Sure.
Can she sit with us?
Yeah.
Yeah, come
You
and
bet.
join us, Jack.
You're sitting back there and I'm like, you're our attorney, come join us.
I was making space for our guests, so yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, so, so that, Jackie's been another great help that, and I haven't told you that yet, but I appreciate the fact that you decided to bring on a full-time attorney. It has been great. I mean, she is busy all the time, and she's even has to prioritize, because I've got goals, things that I'd like to work on, and then things come up, and it's like, gee, Jackie, can you get this taken care of? So it has been, that was a wise decision. But maybe she can help with some of that too. I don't know.
Right, and
I
Talk
was
about
just
that,
wondering
Jackie.
about that.
Yeah, and I have participated in that from a legal standpoint, as far as making sure any hiring employment decision we do is properly done. And there are a lot of hoops and a lot of nuances to make sure that we have this document in place, that we're anticipating the next move, and that we're investigating and doing all these other things. So I'm not a decision maker, but I can prepare Ty with the information from a legal standpoint, so he can make that decision, and Ted as well, and look at files and history and write investigative reports. So that's kind of my role.
That's what I was thinking,
In
but I
that.
wasn't sure.
Right, not so
I
much
used
as
the
the-
correct
Why?
Did I
lingo.
hear, sorry, Betty. Ted, did I hear you right that you said before we could hire somebody, you'd need a 5-year plan, that there's not money right now, but that you would do a 5-year plan and show us when we could add someone, and then?
I wouldn't be.
Was that what you were
I
saying?
wouldn't be comfortable saying. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, it's up to you guys.
Right, but you're not
But
comfortable hiring a
I wouldn't be
full-time.
comfortable hiring
Sure.
because of all that goes into hiring someone. I
Sure.
mean, if you want to bring someone in at a level, you're gonna have to times it half of that. You know,
And raise 2 meals.
I know how much one employee costs, and without looking at it more, and having some
Sure.
serious discussion, because they really need a police officer, sergeant level police officer. They need another EO2. You know, I just have a lot of these a lot of the department budget meetings that I hear. I say, you know, really, we don't have the money, because I don't want to be stuck in the operational side
Sure.
of the business.
I just wanted to be
because
sure I was hearing you. right.
really, we bought a big house with the land, and we don't want to be just stuck in the big house and not be able to do anything with it or mow our lawn, you know, because we don't have the money. So,
Sure. Well, that's
and-
why
and-
I thought you said, thank you.
yeah.
Who's running up and down in the elevator?
Cleaning lady.
Cleaning ladies on
Oh.
Tuesday.
I do think
shut
Ty, that guy has made a good point though, because human resources is very important, and our organization is big enough. That is a very specialized field, and it involves the law, it involves so many things, you know, that when you know, we're kind of scattering it out over several people now because we've had to, because of the budget, but I do think we should make that a goal.
Maybe
If we
next
can't
year.
do that, you know, because
for
It is
19.
very important, and things just run smoothly when you've got a human resources person that really knows that deal, you know?
So having a full-time attorney this year plus a developer, but we maybe need to look at
I think we
this
should
role
really be
for
seriously
next
looking-
year. Is this?
Next year's
And
budget.
then, hi, I don't know how you function without your own personal secretary. I mean, I had my own personal
takes it home and
secretary
his wife does
for
it.
years, and I could not have gotten along in my job without that person assisting me with everything I did, you know? I don't know how you do it.
Yeah, well, I mean, like I said, the additions that you have made help. I mean,
The people
and
downstairs
I just,
help.
I knew, I mean, I'm a citizen too, and I knew the difficult decisions we all had to make back, in 2011 about raising a huge mill and cutting, almost $1 million. And, if I had to buckle up and take on some more stuff, and all of us did it, then that's what we had to do. And it's nice to finally get some breathing room, but when you still have that mentality of, we have no money, we got to, and so, like I said, maybe we can look at, now that we've got Jackie full-time, maybe we can talk and
I finally
see
did
what
something
she's,
good.
and look at that to see if she can help with some of that. I mean, she's
And
already
I'm
been
so
involved.
thankful to have a full-time attorney.
Well,
It's really
and
great.
I don't know in the government sector, but I know in the private sector, there are outside companies that do personnel, all kinds of things. You can segment it from assessments for hiring, and if Jackie's taking care of the legal for firing, why we're good there, kind of thing, because that's a long row, kind of thing. And find the hole. I mean, they're not there to do the jobs for you, but they're there to find the holes that need plugged, or the hole that someone else may be doing something that they hate doing, so it takes them 3 times longer to do it.
Yep.
But they'd love to do this, and they whoop through it, and, those kinds of things. And I don't know how much they cost and those kinds of things, but I know they're out there.
That'd be
Somebody said that they wanted to wait till next year to do this. This council is going to be in session for 4 more months in November, and I'm going to say this year, this council should help you, get an assistant, whatever you want to call that assistant, and do it this year, because we have a good council. We don't know what we're going to have next year, but this year, when you have 4 months to go, I think in 4 months' time, we should be able to hire somebody to assist you in personnel or human resources or whatever. But I don't want to wait till next year. Don't want to do that.
Can I follow? But Ted just said we don't have the money to do it.
Well, you can choose to go under the 30% target if
Yeah,
that's
but
what the
then you
council
get
wants.
flagged, right?
We're
No,
already at 72%.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's our target. 17 is our bare minimum, but that's all. I'm just
Sure.
telling you
Well, and I
what our
wanna-
finance policy says.
And I respect you, and you have your degree in it, and I don't, and I respect what you're saying, but I'm listening to these two who are saying, no, let's not do that yet, is what I'm hearing, and let's then maybe the next year budget look at it. That's what I'm hearing.
No, I haven't heard that.
That's-
I've consistently said he should have something this year, and Ted hasn't said, correct me if I'm wrong, you haven't said we can't afford to hire somebody. You have your budget, you made it clear where the money is going to be spent, but I got the understanding that there's still money available, even though you might change some of these percentages, there's still money available to assist.
Yeah, and just like
Mr.
I
Lasher.
told Peggy, right now on page, you can see, or I guess, see on page 1, very, very top, the first page of your budget right there.
Okay.
So, we have, the ending balance is projected ending balance is $1.65 million, which is 30% of revenues, which is our target. The only money that we would have is if you were willing to go to 29%, which raises, I think, $67,000, I believe.
And does that hurt us with Standard & Poor's?
No, I wouldn't say it's a,
It's just not.
they always note their 30%. I don't know where the cutoff is on that. I could ask, but 30% is pretty conservative. However, we've been through some hard times, so that's what we adopted.
Right.
And we could, if we wanted to, we have $400,000 assigned for streets. We could make it $300,000 and for the streets.
That's where I would say to go. Some other budgetary item, kind of a, pay-go kind of.
I think he needs an assistant, and a personnel person, human resource person or whatever, so he doesn't have to make those decisions. Let that person, whoever he or she is.
What about going for, didn't you say we have 4 months left?
Yes, November.
Okay, doing a part-time person this year with going full-time next year.
That'd be tough for a director of human resources, I would imagine, to find a human.
It'd be hard to find somebody qualified.
Yeah.
Well, and it's going to be hard anyway.
Yes,
I
it
mean,
is.
because of the diversity of people. I mean, we have people out running heavy equipment. We have people running computers and printers.
Well, can we take the money out of someplace else? I don't want to take it out of streets.
Well, and we've had that discussion last meeting about 5%, and here's what I ran into. You can, and we're talking about an operational expense, not something like the PD signs that we want in the fund that say slow down. Those are one-time expense and they're done. Those, when I took 5%, and because we're so top-heavy in personnel and debt, when you want to cut 5% of only contractuals and commodities, that really means you're cutting liability insurance. Can't cut that. It's regular. Fuel. Do we want to lower the fuel to a level where we might run out? You know, right now we are conservative with fuel. You run into a lot of those problems of, boy, I really shouldn't be cutting this. Now, training is a line item that we invest in our employees because they have to do so many responsibilities. I wasn't going to make that determination. That's up to you guys. I don't want to nitpick a lot of other things. There's really, I'm really concerned because I had 4 computers blow up on me in the last about 3 or 4 months.
Is that right?
And so we just had to. So I know our computers are getting older, and I know a lot of these things. I don't want to direct you guys any certain way, but it would be somewhere in our transfers to the CIP. But again, we need to fund different things like that. So I leave it up to the council.
And I have a concern. We've made lots of changes with Jackie and a developer and those kinds of things. And so we don't really know what size our hole's going to be now, and yet we're trying to pound something in there. And one of the things that the 3 of you, I think, who know the people that you're working with, you know, some kind of an assessment that you can do internally with these people to see how they feel about their job and what they're doing, and can they take on more? Are they full up to that kind of thing? Because I really don't know where to move, and I don't know who to hire at this point in time.
Yeah,
You know,
I really like
I mean,
that
we're talking a
suggestion.
personal assistant and a human resources. I
You
don't.
can't really get a combination like
Well, and
that.
Ty's done this so long, you guys, honestly, I know that's not his thing, but with his title of manager, that we switched from administrator to manager, we gave him that ability to oversee the employees and to be able to do it, and you've done a great job at it. And that's part part of the stuff you learned when you took your public administration. I mean, to say he has no HR is not true, because those courses did give you some of that. Because anytime you're working in the public administration, you're working with people. So I would like to see how these as a team do it, and then I would like you to be honest and come back to us at the start of the year and say, okay, I do need you to help me get this outside or whatever, because this budget is gotta be adopted in August. I mean, and I just don't feel comfortable dropping us below that threshold, because man, then we don't get good things on when we go to refinance and stuff.
And the big thing I can offer, and I'm not going to hit your 4 months guideline, is right now I'm projecting ending balances of 2017 based on what I'm seeing in June.
Right.
A lot of stuff could happen. We could save a lot of money. We could do a lot of
Sell all
things.
the land.
And the way the process in the States works, we adopt a budget for 2018. If we have a windfall or something, and when we get the actual 2017 ending balance, we can come back and we did a budget amendment last year and amend the budget. And that would be my suggesting. I'd rather do a budget amendment and go through the trouble than try to guess on something and be wrong.
Do you have a corporate background?
I don't.
Okay. I've worked for lots of corporations.
Sure.
And I know what the department heads do. Every department head builds a surplus, builds it automatically into their commodities and the cost of their employees. They do it. And so I'm saying, I don't think the 5% reduction is bad, because we're not touching salaries. We're not, and I just know that a 5% reduction in the budget, and you take 5% off of all the department heads, it's not going to hurt them. It's not going to kill them. It's not going to be the end of the city. And then we have a city manager who has a human resources person who is able to, as I said before, hire, fire, and administer the staff so that they can do it. So I think there's money in the budget, and just cut back on the commodities and the operations.
And I understand how to fund that for this year or next year, but when that same HR person's there for the year after, we're still gonna have to come up with that money the year after.
Yes.
And we're gonna grow, hopefully.
Yes.
Thankfully, but if we don't grow, and that's what it's the continued expense that I'm worried about.
You know, the fact that he will be able to do the better, he can do his job better by being city manager with a human resource person working with staff, and he'll be more free. And I think that the city's going to grow. This city is, it's attractive. It's very attractive. And those guys were saying, those two guys, they said, we have 40 people, drive through Central Park every day looking at land and looking at places. They'll be able to sell. They'll be able to sell some of those lots and sell and build buildings and so on. And we build buildings. We now have a higher tax rate. We get a little bit better income from them. So, so my background tells me that the money is there for the city. We're a growing city, and it would be a great assistance to our city manager. Allow him to do his job better. That's it.
I just like to say, I think Ty's done one hell of a job with everything he's had to do. And we've added a full-time attorney, which has helped quite a bit. We're hopefully adding a development person, which will help out quite a bit. I would love the idea to add all these staff, but I question, is it really needed at this very moment? I think that's the question we need to ask ourselves, especially when this isn't something that's really been requested that I know of, or haven't heard that this is a dire need. So
I did 2 years ago.
Yes, she did. And I think it is a dire need. And so we spend some money. We have a salary for this person, and it can come out. It can come out of the budget, and he will be able to do a much better job and I'm not saying he's done a bad job. I'm not even suggesting that at all. You know, he knows what I think of him. So, yeah, I think it's important. It's, you know, I don't want to call it a dire need, but he has a need, and it should be satisfied, and he'll be able to do a better job than he's doing now, and that's going to be good for the city. Good for he'll have more time to do his city manager job.
But again, I can't decide what job we're gonna fill, personal assistant or HR. And we can't fill both of them with one person.
I think we have HR. We have a human resource person who can work with staff and then make determinations as to what the workload should be with the staff. And I'm saying we have the money in the budget. That's what my background tells me, because I know what department heads do. So that's it. I'm not asking for two people. I'm just asking for a human resources person, so he doesn't have to make the decision to hire, fire, or give this person that particular workload. Let somebody else do that who understands human resources.
But he'll get no personal assistant then.
Whatever you want to call the person. He gets no personal assistant. No, that person, the human resource person, will be an employee of the city, and it will take a workload. It'll take a workload off of Ty and allow him to spend more time doing what city managers do. That's obvious to me. That's obvious. So, and I know the money's there. It's in the budget, because I know corporations
And I will
and
say
how they
that,
work.
I'm
Pardon me?
sorry, I will say that a portion of what, I'm doing as far as the legal aspects of
Okay.
hiring and reviewing acts that come down that impact the city, that a portion of that I know is within the scope of what I'm supposed to do, and I'll continue to do that, and that's going to develop as the year goes on, as Ty's
Okay.
giving me more responsibility in that.
Sure,
So,
sure.
just to make sure.
And that's good.
I think
Thank you.
personnel issues are always the hardest thing, when you own a company, when you're working in an organization, when you're a boss in any organization, those personnel issues, whether you have a small department or a great big organization, those are the tough, really hard things. But I feel like we've got a full-time attorney now that's taking all that legal load off, which is a big part of
Yes, thank
personnel
you.
and human resources is the legal aspect. So that's great. We have that help now full-time. And I would love to have a full-time HR person, and I will say, every place I've ever worked, the HR person and the boss are just like this,
Sure.
because they have to be. And we've got Ted working on some of this now, bless your heart. I don't know how to do it. But I don't know that we want to do that right now, because I know that every time I wanted to hire somebody, I had to justify that position, because it is so much money, and it's your biggest thing that goes on and on and on every year, and it gets bigger every year as far as expenses. And I want to say, Guy, I bet you get reelected.
Oh.
And so, we don't have to worry about doing it right now, because it's very likely you're an incumbent, you'll probably get reelected. And I'd rather not do this right now. Now, I'd like to see you hire a secretary, but I can't see a person that would be your assistant and the HR person at the same time.
What I'd really
agree.
like to look into is Diane had a great suggestion. There are firms out there that do that, can look at your staff and see what everybody's doing. Is that are they in the right position? Because maybe,
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Maybe there is somebody that could help me as an assistant if we took something off of them and gave it to somebody else, because they would be
There you
better at
go.
that. That would be, I
Right.
think that would be really helpful.
And sometimes you hire an outside consultant to come in and analyze
Yep.
your organization like that. You say, well, this person is
Yep.
doing, and they do a great job of
Yep.
it. I've
Fresh
gone through
eyes.
that.
They're
That's a
not-
good idea.
Yep, they're not.
Exactly.
So-
That might be the thing we could do right now,
I kind of think it might be a good idea, and the other thing as a business owner is, this is just one of those adages for businesses in general, but hire slowly, fire quickly. You know, I mean, and probably if there's a fault for you, you don't fire quickly enough because you need the person, kind of thing. Yeah, I'm uncomfortable with this right now thing.
It's not as easy to fire people nowadays as it used to be.
No,
I
it's
disagree
not.
with Ramona on that, but I'm not against I know if I bring up a motion at the next council meeting, it'll be knocked down. So I'm not
But we
against.
appreciate your thoughts, and I think you've got a good idea, I really do.
I'm not against the idea of doing it, looking for contractors to come in with, as you said, fresh eyes and examine and then
Yeah.
make recommendations. So I will not vote against that.
Yeah, because that's a one-time expense that we could afford, you know, and every organization should do
It's a
that.
smart
Yeah,
thing.
because
to
we've
do.
never done it.
Yeah.
That's
There you
great.
So it would sure be nice.
Yep, that's
Well,
what
and
you can do next
we've
year.
already made some changes to some of the things
Yep.
that you're gonna have to do.
Let's see how
You
those
know,
play.
but you're still gonna have to consult with, you know, if the hiring of Jerry goes through, you're still gonna have to do some consulting with him and, you know,
Right.
that type of thing. So it's not gonna take
Fine.
everything
Right,
away.
right.
But I know him to be a decisive person, so he's not gonna be messing around.
No, he's going to be hired. There's no one here who's going to vote against him.
Yep.
So, but again, that's a change. Jackie's made some changes to yours.
I think we're on a good road.
Yeah, I think we're really on
Me
the
too.
right path to
Very happy.
good
Yes, thank you.
success.
I'm certainly not against it, I'm just not sure it's the right time.
I agree.
That's exactly it. You know, a stopgap measure right now.
Let's see how this
Someday we're
works.
gonna have a full-time human resources person.
Sure,
There's no
someday.
doubt about it.
And someday we're gonna get all that land sold too.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's the one big takeaway, and I won't talk anymore on all the meetings I had on this refinance issue. Keeping that extraordinary redemption was the biggest, most important savings for the city, because every time we sell a piece of land, we can retire the debt. And that's the biggest savings you'll see. And I'll put a little slide in my presentation about it. I don't know off the top of my head, but from where we were in 2010 to where we are now is just amazing, as far as how much that saves
Progress.
us when you
Oh, yeah.
retire
These meetings
principal.
used to just be so depressing.
Yeah.
You're
They're
not working
exciting.
with a bunch of dummies.
No,
All right, so budget kind of
Okay.
as is, but with $10,000 back into
Yeah.
Yeah.
general marketing.
Well, let's make it where we can find it if we
Right.
wanna have a big celebration.
Okay, and so want your agenda, or motion on the agenda to add an HR person, or?
No, I said I was in agreement with just having Ty look at some contractor to come in and with fresh eyes examine. I'm not against
So let's
that.
see if we
Want
can
to
put
clarify after
that
our
in
last
somewhere.
dust up, make sure
Yeah.
we're on the same page.
Right, but I will still want to make a
You
motion
won't
to
even.
dissolve the CDC.
Okay.
And that won't pass, but I'll make the motion.
Well, it's gonna be a new group anyway, because we gotta look at those bylaws and the resolution. They have to be reworked.
Hey, guys, it's Ted's turn.
no,
Okay.
no.
Sorry about that.
Really, I think the mayor wrapped it up.
No, I got a question.
That's what I'm saying. If we have any questions, I'll just let you guys spitball. I don't think I need to go through the whole budget unless you guys want me
Okay,
to.
on the senior center expenses, weren't we gonna get 38.5 from active aging?
37.5, I believe.
38.
I
think you said
I saw 38
You
someplace.
said 38?
Yeah.
What page are you on?
That number keeps going, which
11.
is good. It's a good number to go up, but,
Well, I was thinking it was 38, but even 37. And you still have senior grants and donations for 2,500?
did we change that last?
No.
No.
Oh.
They've been getting that for several years now,
Uh-huh.
since we got everything smoothed out. Is it possible that we can raise that another $1,500?
That's up to you guys. I'm at
Well,
we
mainly, it's-
1,000, it's not gonna bust our budget, so I'm not,
well, the
I'm not too concerned about that.
1,500 can come out of the 37.5 or the 38.5,
Sure.
whatever it is.
And if it is 38, then we got $1,000 right there that you could use it on.
But if we could raise because they're older people and most of them can't drive anymore.
Okay.
And so that would give them a total of $4,000 to spend.
I have always thought it was very lopsided, that other group, they have the activities, they do the work, they've been faithful. I just think that they deserve more. And like Betty said, they're getting older, and this would take a little bit of the pressure off of them to raise funds like they've always done for their activities. And
Which group is this one we're talking about? The one that
Senior
Carolyn?
the senior club,
Senior
senior
club.
club.
Club
Donation.
that she's president.
And they've worked hard all these years, and I just think they deserve a little bit more money.
I will tell you, this is the first July, they're having a senior dinner, that other than Christmas, they're buying the meat.
Rather than the members providing it, which they've always done. And if you look at our budget, every month that we get, they're providing a lot of their stuff that the other group gets paid for.
Well,
These
Well,
members are.
the other group brings their own food and what have you as well.
Not the meat, it's on the appropriations every month.
Yeah, and the meat's always the most expensive thing, you know, so I just think it would be right to give them a little bit more money now.
Especially since they keep track of their activities. I don't know, I haven't been there forever. I didn't even get to go when Ty gave his presentation, but from what I heard, everybody liked it.
Oh, that's good.
And,
He was waiting to see if she said it was bad.
There wasn't a lot of people there, but anytime somebody from the government comes, no one wants to go listen, so.
well, there
These
were
were all the
some
people that
sick
couldn't
and
hear anyway.
some of them were sick and some of them were out of town. In fact, we just lost another one, but, anyway, they do count, they keep track of their activities and their, how many people are attending these things, and the city does use their count, and I personally feel that's how they're gonna get the 37.5. And it is kind of merging, because I do know one lady went on a trip with the senior center people. Wasn't me, but.
Oh, is this a,
No,
it's Betty.
I wanted to go, but I was still in the doctor's office.
Well, I think it's wonderful that there's more copacetic ideas and attitudes, and I think we can be kind of proud of that, because that's happened during our administration. And I'm very thankful to see that, because that's what we want. We want everybody to get along, be happy, and share.
So you don't see a problem of raising it?
No, I just
4,000.
worry about, is this can I include this in the budget I present that, so that it doesn't, I just want a budget to pass next week.
Are we all gonna get mad at the
No,
and say,
these are
no, these
good.
are, you're very good at asking us right now. The rest of them just said.
We're gonna bring cherry tomatoes.
I don't want 1,500 to cost me.
Set them on the
You have learned quickly.
windowsill.
You taught him well, Ty. That's hilarious.
I-
You don't need HR, you got it.
This binding machine took it out of me this morning. So. Ty walked in, I was a mess.
That is hilarious.
It's easier. It's a lot better though. I think I'll do it with everything, or all my.
And you even updated your time too. So
Yeah, I
there you
update it
go.
all the time. So.
I think, I don't know, I can't speak for everyone else,
Yeah.
but I'm not gonna quibble over $1,500.
How's the rest of you feel? I don't want to be the only one who decided to.
I'll give them more, I don't care.
Woo-hoo! Well, You know, they don't really ask for a
I
whole
know they
lot.
don't. They're great and they gave us receipts and
Yeah, they haven't asked for it, but I
they're
just think
wonderful.
it's the right thing to do, in my opinion.
I don't disagree, so we'll do, the council will vote for it. It'll pass.
Yeah, I remember my first, I've been mayor all of.
I'm happy.
6 weeks, and that was gonna be one of my things. By golly, I was gonna have kumbaya with the senior groups. And I sat down with each group and realized within about 2 minutes that I was wrong. I was wrong. And this seemed to work out, and it's working, and I think it's a good job.
I think it's a great thing, Betty.
Thank you.
Yes.
I'm sure they will appreciate it.
Good people
I'm gonna
go
be
through.
there soon, so.
Yeah.
Well, I'm
gonna
already
join-
there, but I
I don't know-
haven't been
I'm
for
gonna
a
join
long
both.
time.
Anything else? Any other questions for?
I appreciate
I
time.
think we ought to end. I think we ought to end the.
Let's do it.
Okay.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay.
I don't know if we have to.
We don't.
I
We're
just
out.
wanna make sure, Ted, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I'm